Regular meeting of the City of South Fulton. At this time, we ask the clerk, were there any decisions made in executive session?
No action was taken, sir.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to close executive session.
Make a motion to close executive session.
Second.
The properly moved to second, any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Ms. Clerk, would you call the order, please?
Mayor William Bill Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mark Baker. Present. Councilmember Catherine Rowell.
Present.
Councilmember Carmelita Dunn.
Present.
Councilmember Helen V. Willis.
Present.
Councilmember Naima Hilliard.
Here.
Councilmember Rosie Jackson.
Here.
And Councilmember Khalid. Present.
We'll now have the invocation by the chaplain, followed by the pledge of allegiance. If you would stand, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, just want to take a moment to share that the City of South Fulton HR Department asks us to support breast cancer awareness. It says breast cancer is the second most common kind of cancer in women. About 1 in 8 women born in the United States may be diagnosed with breast cancer at some point. National Breast Cancer Awareness Month is a chance to raise awareness about the importance of detecting breast cancer early. On Tuesday, October 23rd, join the Human Resource team and wear pink in support of family, friends, and co-workers that have been diagnosed with breast cancer. I would like for us to bow our heads in remembrance of breast cancer awareness. We believe in the power of thought, so we create positive thinking in this atmosphere, that it may spread out to all of our loved ones, our parents, our children, our friends, our neighbors, that the awareness of cancer will be made known, and that women would do what they need to do for the examinations. But, oh God, we think about a cure. We think about causing it to come to an end. And because we create what we think, we create it now. And this we pray. Let us all say amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Ms. Clerk. Mr. Mayor, members of council, that takes you to the consideration of the consent agenda. We do have a number of items listed on the consent agenda, and I understand there may be 1 or 2 items at least. I got a request from the CFO, okay, and that's related to the letter B on the consent agenda, request approval to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Community Leasing Partners. The CFO would like that item to be heard for separate consideration. Your letters A through I.
I need to pull something off of this.
Go ahead.
The resolution, the remaining of Old National.
Okay, that's letter F.
Yes, we need to have a discussion.
Okay.
The Old National bill.
Are we voting on these items?
No, they're pulling those off the consent to the regular agenda.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
As amended.
No, as is. That's my motion.
Oh, okay. Hearing no second, I'll entertain another motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Properly moved second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That was approved 6-1.
So that takes you to approval of the regular meeting agenda.
I'll entertain a motion.
I actually
would like to make a motion to approve the regular agenda, moving the public works action item until after the proclamations and recognitions. I think there's several people that are here to talk about that.
Is there a second?
I second.
Probably move to second in discussion. All those in favor? That passed unanimously? Oh, okay. That passes.
Okay. The next item is a proclamation that's sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem Mark Baker, a proclamation recognizing J. and Ernestine Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund Day.
Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to ask Mr. J. Morrison and his wife Ernestine to please come forward. As well as the Tulsa Real Estate Fund Group of Investors to please come forward. You might recognize these two young people from the Atlanta metro area in our city. They did a great thing, making history very recently. And I didn't bring this up. Said when I see you guys standing next to the lead, it also makes me want to acknowledge the fact that these are two young people who are willing to put everything that they have on the line for our community. These are two young people who actually stood against forces of power based off inequality and unfair treatment for our people when the Houston's restaurant was boycotted, as well as the Waffle House situation in our city. And they didn't ask me to talk about this, and they're not here for that. But I just want to acknowledge them for their efforts in making sure that our people are well taken care of and they're a voice for those who are voiceless. Please give them a round of applause. Proclamation, City of South Fulton. Whereas J. and Ernestine Morris and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund is the first African-American regulated A Tier 2 real estate crowd fund that finances urban development in the United States. Whereas urban neighborhoods across the nation do not have control of their dollars, real estate, or small businesses, making it difficult to uncover funding for real estate redevelopment that stays in the community. Thusly, urban neighborhoods are being developed by individuals who do not have the best interests of the community in mind. This leads to the displacement of longtime residents and destroys community culture. Whereas the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, through its crowdfunding, raised $10 million in 7 days for the advancement of underserved communities, allowing members of the communities, institutions, and advocacy groups to own an equity stake in redevelopment projects funded by the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. With this participation past donation, every investor, both accredited and non-accredited, will have an equity interest in every project they invest in, which enables control of our community and circulates our dollar within our neighborhoods. So we take pride and unite around common goals. And whereas the Tulsa Real Estate Fund has over 12,000 investors, some of them in District 7, and their fund has made it possible for working class citizens to own a portfolio of residential and commercial real estate assets for as little as a $500 investment, thereby creating a new legacy of ownership for many families. We had a huge situation here where this room was packed out for Quick Trip. We had this side full of people with green hats on saying save Quick Trip, save Leapfrog. And their initiative is an initiative that won't bring us back to that situation if it becomes infectious. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of South Fulton do hereby proclaim Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018, as Jay and Ernestine Morrison and the Tulsa Real Estate Fund Day in the City of South Fulton, Georgia.
Good evening, family.
Good evening.
We are honored from the mayor and all city council and for the city of South Fulton for you guys just to recognize our work, our efforts, and our service to all urban and underserved communities throughout the country. The Tulsa Real Estate Fund is a funding platform, a funding source for urban development owned by the people. So the fund is not just a reflection of Ernestine and myself, but it's a reflection of over 12,000 investors throughout the world, many of our future investors throughout the world in the city of South Fulton, but it gives us all an opportunity to invest, in most cases, a minimal amount to be able to have ownership, not just a donation or GoFundMe or collection plate, but actual ownership in real estate assets and to begin to build a legacy for our families. We've founded this fund. This idea was 4 years old. We just launched our IPO on June 1st of 2018 on the anniversary of the Black Wall Street bombing of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This fund pays homage to that Black Wall Street community where over 36 square blocks of Black-owned businesses and homes were burned down and massacred on June 1st of 1921, hence the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. It's a rebirth of that self-sustaining and self-determined Black Wall Street mindset and ideology, but giving us infrastructure and an institution for all nationalities, all walks of life, every shape, color, religion, to all be able to invest together as a community to empower the most underserved communities in America. And we thank you for that acknowledgement. Honey, do you have any words? I think the acknowledgement, I want to pass the mic to my better half.
Just really quickly, Jay, you always speak very well for the both of us and for our team. Jay and I were sitting here looking at this sign, City of South Fulton, established in 2017. And I was just sitting there thinking like, wow, a whole city was established just last year. And it took like-minded individuals like you guys who are invested in the community to create something, to create a vehicle so we can say, hey, we have a seat at the table and a voice as well. And essentially that's what the Tulsa Real Estate Fund is, for us to have a voice and to have a seat at our own tables.
So again, thank you all. Thank you to our partners, to our proteges, to our other Tulsa Fund members. And again, thank you all for honoring us and just paying homage. Not just for us, because this fund is to be a beacon of hope of what we can do when we all come together. Yes. No one thought that we could unify and raise $10 million of capital commitments in 7 days. And now that money is, and that the capital is being deployed back into our community to own and develop real estate assets. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I need you guys to come around some. If you are tall, you grab a window, you can come over. Grab a window. Can you scoot over? Can you guys tighten up a little bit? Okay. You guys can go first. I'll go last. On 3. 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3. You got it? Yep. All right, my turn. Thank you. Here we go. Nice. 1, 2, and 3. Right here. 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Do we have another?
Thank you so much.
Very true.
No, you just tell them what you found, and that you said not to go out, and what your recommendation is, and that's it. But I mean, they were for that. I think, what did you think? What did you think is? I know, I guess your initial, okay, but with either found that it would be right. So you
Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have received 22 speaker cards, so we would like to ask all of the members in our public who are present, when your name is called, if you would please approach the center aisle towards the podium in the middle. I'll call 5 names at a time. Our first speaker is Mr. Rusan Francois, Ms. Linda Pritchett Fleming, Mr. Rick Jarvis, Mr. Avon Spence, and Ms. Mary Mead Potter.
Go right in there.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I stand before you nervous and anxious, but hopeful and optimistic. I pray that the Lord will speak to your heart so that whatever decisions you're going to take tonight regarding public works, that the Lord will speak to you and you make the right decision for the city and also for the employees of Fulton County. I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning. I received a copy of the presentation yesterday morning. So I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to dissect everything in the IGA. And in a few minutes, I would like to go over what I came up with and a few items that I would like for the council to consider. This is something that the city manager went over already. The highlighted cells are the ones that I really question about how many employees are involved in both the in-house and the other one. But I would like to spend more time on this section. If you look at page 175 or 173 of the IGA, where it talks about the optional services, and those are the 3 items that I would like the council to consider: the management of the CIP, transportation planning services, and others. Those are for the management of the CIP. In order to manage the CIP, you must be lab certified. A vendor cannot be lab certified. He has to be city employee. So when we go before GDOT for projects, if the city is not lab certified, that puts the fundings and the projects in jeopardy. 2 ways: existing projects cannot move forward, and projects in the future, we cannot seek funding for them. So therefore, this is something that the council must think about. And also we have other...
Thank you. Everyone only gets 2 minutes. For what? I don't think we only have 2 minutes.
But Mayor, you could let them know these items, if y'all ask, we had responses to these and some clarification we will definitely provide through the conversation of public works.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Linda Pritchett Fleming, and I live in District 7. I'm here to talk about the public works transition. When we became a city, it was because we believed in self-determination and the improvement of the delivery of services. We also wanted control of our tax dollars. Now the transition of public works may possibly be outsourced, and the county workers under the intergovernmental agreement laid off. This takes us back to where we were when we were unincorporated, giving away money to others to do what we need to fight to make work for ourselves. I ask you to consider carefully what message we're sending, what precedent we are setting for our city. As a previously union endorsed by the AFL-CIO and union supporter, I would hate to see our city to be known for making financial decisions because we cannot afford to pay employees their benefits. I ask you to carefully consider what you are doing as you consider whatever vote you have to make
concerning public works. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Rick Jarvis again, Latham Home Sanitation. What I'm here about tonight is the insurance. Y'all put it at $2.5 million, and all the small haulers have been trying to get quotes. We can't call Progressive and get insurance on garbage trucks. They don't do it. Everybody's quoting us 60 to 90 days out, which means come November 1, we can't be eligible to operate in your city. You have 5 legal haulers in your city. 80% of those haulers, 4 of them, are locally owned private people, family people. I know 2 of them are probably going to get put out of business. I can get the insurance, but the cost is going to be so high, I can't compete with the big boys. You have one big company that just got bought out by a Canadian outfit that's coming in to take over Waste Industries, in case any of you didn't know that. So all I'm asking is, if you go like other cities, like last time I know I heard about Sandy Springs is bigger, has more money, that's the reason they have the lower insurance. It's not the case. Across the industry, and City of Berkeley Lake in Gwinnett County is 689 houses, they only require $500,000. City of Oxford, Georgia, 612 houses, theirs is $1 million. City of Atlanta, largest one around, they're $1 million. I know this because I'm in all these cities doing small jobs in them, and they only require the $1 million. And that's all I was say about insurance. And on a bright note, Amnesty Day this past Saturday, we serviced over 100 senior citizens with 3 trucks on Saturday that could not get to Merck Miles. So we sent trucks out, took care of them, picked them all up. We've done this now for 34 years. Have a nice one. Thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Good evening. My name is Avon Spence, and I represent Fulton Sanitation. And I live in District 4, I believe. That's the district number of Cedar Grove. 3 things I want to say. One is when the original RFP was suggested acceptance by your committee over here, it was rejected. It was rejected because the larger haulers made it real plain that they wasn't keeping small businesses like myself in business. So y'all didn't want to accept that. Fine. All right? So moving right along, the last time it came up, and it came up that they wanted this $5 million insurance policy. Well, that insurance policy y'all knew was going to put us out of business. You knew it, right? And you was real adamant about accepting it. Now understand it. I'll wait, because I like to have everybody undivided attention, because this is my bread and butter. Go ahead, y'all knew that was going to put me out of business. You knew it, right? And it was a disregard for it. And you had a bunch of people coming up here saying, well, the reason why they don't want a sanction for Advance to get it is because Advance had all these violations. And I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, what violations? Because as much as I heard about violations, I heard nobody say what a violation was. I went to Advance after that, and I inquired, what kind of violations y'all had? The man said they ain't had not one violation, not one. So I came down to Fulton Industrial, and I asked, what violations did they have? And they said they got a bunch of them. I said, well, okay, but where's that? Well, we don't have the records because the records went with whoever it was that took over, and they won't share them with us. Tell me about Donald Trump taxes. That don't make sense to me. It's like it's a deliberate to keep small businesses like myself out of business.
Thank you, sir. Follower, Ms. Potter, Mr. A.W. Davis, Ms. Kashetta Nolan, Mr. Penning Lockhart, Mr. Terry Hutchinson, and Ms. Chantel Miles. Next speaker is Ms. Potter.
Good evening. My name is Mary Potter. I am a proud citizen of District 3. And I am here because I want to talk about the approval of the roundabout at Jones Road and Highway 92. It should be voted on from everyone on this council for a vote of yes. Every morning and every evening, it is a horrific challenge to leave my home in the Jones Crossing subdivision and enter onto Highway 92 safely. The DOT has given you the survey as you requested for the second time, and now it needs to be approved for completion. My girlfriend totaled her brand new Toyota Camry at that intersection. We have had multiple accidents at that intersection. We have even, if I can recall correctly, had a child that died in a vehicle not too long ago, maybe a year or so. Most recently, I was almost in 2 accidents myself, and I would have been at fault because I was trying to make a turn out of this dangerous intersection. It is too dangerous to ignore. It is too dangerous to dismiss. It is too dangerous to prolong. As we all are aware of the unwanted warehouse that is coming to the corner of Hall Road and Highway 92, traffic will increase and so will the speed of those traveling that route. This is no longer a matter that can be rejected due to personal gain when you took an oath to earnestly represent the constituents who helped to place you here. It is my expectation that this council will approve the DOT recommendation and move forward expeditiously. Furthermore, if you do not live in that area and travel it on a daily basis, then you do not know what the flow of traffic is and how it affects the constituents who live there. Therefore, how could you not support the survey recommended from the State Department of Transportation? Again, my expectation is that you approve the roundabout recommendations and move forward with it immediately.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is A.W. Davis. I live in District 4. Socrates said that the greatest challenge facing man is his need to know what it is that he does not know. Most people think that's a quote. It's not a quote. It's a query. It requires an answer. The answer is man himself. I looked at the item that you all have on your agenda dealing with telecommunications, and I missed that meeting. But what I did want you to know, and I wanted to go into your record, is that electromagnetic waves travel faster in warm weather. Scientists have continuously said to us that the Earth is warming. If the Earth is warming, then the average temperature for each environment, not only just here in Atlanta, will increase, which means that you don't need as many signal cell towers in these various areas. That's the reason why I bring this up. So when telecommunications companies approach you in regards to having new facilities or installations put into our environment in our communities, please let them know that we don't need that many because our Earth is warming. Second part of it is that I want you to know that we need to begin to take some preparations in regards to the coming recession. Within the next 3 years, you're going to have a recession. Everybody on Wall Street knows that. As an economist in 2008, not only did I predict the recession in regards to September 15th, I also predicted the time of day, which was 11:36. When you get your history books, maybe 10, 15 years from now, you'll be able to see that as being a part of this particular scenario. Not only did I predict that, I also predicted why it was triggered. And it was triggered in reference to July 11th, 2008. If you go into London, you'll find out exactly what transpired on that day. We need to begin to think in terms of the future, and I'm going to ask you once again to please hire an economist, someone that will help you to perceive what it is that you're walking into. Enjoy your evening, and as always, may God bless each of you. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor Edwards and City Council. My name is Kashetta Nowlin. I currently serve as the Vice President of Old National Youth Athletic Association, which is ONYAA. I'm coming forward because there's been a lot of discussions about the future of Old National, the association that is there, and the park itself. I serve as the registration person, so I've been doing the registration at Old National for, I guess, since Mrs. Mumford was put in place to clean the park up. But I've been at Old National since my daughter was 3 years old and she's now 23. But I come forward to speak about the registration, our numbers. Yes, our numbers are low. This summer we had almost 100 kids. A lot of kids we had to let go because we didn't have volunteers. You can get kids all day, but if you don't have people that want to come help, people want to give their time, then you have to let the kids go. You can't take people's money and not have an adult to receive those kids. So we were able to keep a few 6 and under and put them in a flag program. You don't need 23 kids for a flag team. So, you know, I hear everybody say, oh, well, y'all only have 51 kids. Well, we have 51 football players, but we also have cheerleaders also. So we have almost 20 cheerleaders. So we have more than what the rumor says on the street. But I just want to say that as being at the park as long as I've had, and I've served as a parent, a teen mom, and now I'm on the board, I've seen the park go through many, many changes. It has been going through many, many hands. And it just requires people to work. We don't have a problem with working with anybody that want to come in and work, but you have to come in and work. You can't sit out in the street and talk about the people that are there working and think that that's going to make it better. It hurts us. It hurts us in our numbers because parents don't know. Parents are clueless. They just go off what they hear, they go off what coaches tell them or what their friends say. And that's how parents make a decision on where they put their kids for sports. So I think ONYA has done a great job and I think they should stay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Edwards and esteemed members of the City Council. My name is Benham Lockhart. I live in District 7 and I'm at 415 Owatonna Circle. I am the HOA president of the Chippewa Forest subdivision. Just as police services and public education are key components to positive economic development and growth of any city, this issue of public sanitation is just as crucial. Now, if our citizens will have the option of selecting a sanitation service, which I heard the last time, there must be some process for penalties or fines that could be assessed for opting out of trash pickup altogether, which should not be an option. One of our HOA neighbors canceled his weekly pickup with Republic or some other hauler several weeks ago and decided to use his pickup truck to haul his household trash away. Now I understand that this is probably an approved option, but since he started this practice, we now face a new problem with raccoons ravaging through the bags of trash in the back of his truck, strewing debris and other things throughout the yards and the streets of the subdivision. Now in the past I've observed deer, foxes, bobcats, sundry small animals, but this raccoon thing is a new one for me. So I'm suggesting that approved outside trash storage receptacles be required for all homeowners or renters with some way of enforcing compliance to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Terrence Hutchison. I am the baseball commissioner for Old National Park. And I'm here to talk about the things that I've been hearing on social media, the constant hits that we've been taking. I'm also one of the football coaches at the park. Again, just like our vice president said, our numbers are low. But my thing is, if anybody has a problem on the outside with our numbers, then we would ask that you come and volunteer and help out with the kids that are at the park. We had over 100 people, 100 kids at the park this year. We did have to turn some away. We also had a food program where we was feeding kids this summer. And the people that is making the complaints, I don't see them. I never see them inside the park. They didn't come and help pass out food. They're not up there paying for kids. They're not up there bringing kids to the park. They're not up there volunteering, anything. And I just feel like that's a problem, that you're attacking a park that we have been running that's in our community. And that's all I would like to say.
Thank you. Following Ms. Miles, we have Mr. Tony Davis, Ms. LaShonda Carter, Ms. Nicole Stanley, Ms. Stephanie Bailey, and Ms. Renee Mumford. If all five of you would please approach the center aisle. Ms. Miles.
Today I asked the City Council their expectations on the future of Old National Youth Athletic Association and its operations through the City of South Fulton, as I asked that you just put to rest whatever this cyber assassination is, or what's going on with the Old National Youth Athletic Association against the Old National Athletic Association. I am currently the academic commissioner. I'm also the cheer commissioner. I'm also a teen mom. I give 400 hours year-round or more when it comes to spelling bees, cheer programs, feeding children during the summers, feeding kids on the park where they're not affiliated with the park, but we want them to eat because we don't know whether they're eating at home. And the current people that are doing this cyber assassination, I haven't seen this year or last. So all I'm asking is that the council, if you're going to leave ONYAA in place, please let them know so we can end it, so we can move on and enjoy our 51 kids. I'm not a mother of 2. I'm a mother of the 60 that we have. And I would like to continue on giving my community service to these kids in the City of South Fulton. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing, Mayor and City Council? My name is Tony Davis. I'm currently the athletic commissioner at ONYAA. And yes, you guys are going to hear because it is a frustration, because we do not respond on social media to anyone. We have people that is hiding in the dark. They speak to you in your face and will never come to us and actually offer their head. The pastor said when he first came, he said a positive understanding. Well, a positive understanding that when you are a true vested work in your community, you would love to see that when people want to come invest their time into that same community that you live and your kids live in. I'm a product of South Fulton. I stayed in South Fulton. So when I hear the talk outside of the walls and I'm right there and I've spoken to some people and some I have never seen before in my life. Have never seen them. But I've spoken to some that's asked them to come. We had a matriarch of our park, a patriarch of our park that passed away. And these same gentlemen walked up to us and said, we're coming back to assist. Yeah, but they came back and talked behind us to try to take over instead of coming and say, what do we need to do? Let's strap up our backs and our collars and top our boots and let's get this thing done. Those kids that come through that park, half of them cannot even fund it. This vested community volunteer that I do, some of it comes out of our pockets. And we have no problem with that. So when we hear the talk, the back talk from the side, it does irritates us. There's a straight disrespect for the people that, this community, that they're saying they're coming to save. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nicole. I'm one of the team moms of All National. And as a parent and also the team mom of these kids on the team, we as a whole have taken so much pride. And for Ms. Mumford, she has done so much, and we do a lot just ourselves, and we haven't had a lot of help from the outside. And we do a lot together ourselves for the kids that, like Tony said, they don't have a lot to do, you know, able to fund themselves. And we provide, we try to help and do, you know, for the kids. And we want to keep Old National. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, Mayor and City Council. My name is LaShonda Carter. I'm a former parent, but I actually work at Old National Park Monday through Saturday, and I have a full-time job. My daughter is 17 years old. She graduated May 18th from Banneker High School. She attends Albany State University, so I do not have any youth at the park. But all of those kids are my youth. They're my kids, because we're there. We're there from the time the shack opens up when everyone wants chicken to the time it closes when we have to make sure everyone gets home safely. Yes, we are upset. We don't mean to be upset, but here's the thing. When we work with people who want, we call it a village. Everyone needs to be a part of the village who wants to assist in helping Old National Park out. We have former coaching staff and people who speak bad about the park, but who are not there. We welcome them back there. If we all can join hands and work together, maybe we can come to one concrete mission and a solution to assisting with everything at the park. When funds are in debt, meaning that kids do not have funding to pay for certain things such as football, basketball, baseball, where does the funds come from? No one is attacking that situation. How about you donate? Donate your time, donate your money, donate everything that you have, because you're speaking about a park, the youth. If that's what your job is, if that's what you're trying to conquer by doing something to get in front of the, be a solution, not be a part of the problem. Let's stop talking about it. Let's be a solution and be a part of the problem. You have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Lady, a part of Old National Park. I also have a problem with it. The park didn't stay exactly like it is. The park didn't stay just like it is. Like, you know, they say everyone always has something to say. Old National turned my son from want to serve water to a lease. He's only 10, and I love the park. It's quiet. It's no drama. The people that's on the outside always have something to say, which, you know, we don't worry about stuff like that. I just want Old National to stay like it is. Let the boys that first time come up to the park, let them learn the sports. You know, if we bring extra outside and in, it's always drama. So wait, it's not like it used to be. It's just fine like it is. Thank you.
Ms. Bailey. After Ms. Bailey, Ms. Mumford is not present, Mr. Chauncey King, Mr. Raymond Wilson, Ms. Beverly Davis, Ms. Glenda Collins, and Mr. Charles Mitchell. If you would all please approach the center aisle.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Renee Mumford, and I've been here before. I was here when we needed lights. I come to you all today, and I also come to speak to ONAA, former, and ONYAA. It takes a village to raise these children. I spend a lot of time, and I love each and every one of you all on both sides. I'm not here to speak from one side to the other. Yes, we are ONAA. But I love each and every one of you all, and I'm not ashamed to say it. No matter what goes on here today, what you all say, it should be about those children. Because see, you all are my children. Some of you were my coaches. Matter of fact, all of you were my coaches at Old National. And even when you got in trouble, even when things didn't go your way, I still loved you the same. And I love the children that we have at the park today the same. I am not about foolishness. I am not here to beat anybody up. I just need for us to get on the same page so that we can serve our community and serve it right. That's all I need to do. I need to hear all of us say that we're going to do what we need to do to take care of these children. We have opened this door and this platform with Lisa Carter, Stan Motley, Tony Phillips before. And you know what? We are still ONYAA serving these children by ourselves with the same ONAA. So as of today, I'm tired. I need us to get on the same page, or we need to let it go on the other side, because we're still moving and we're going to continue to serve that community. I've been there 34 years. I'm not going anywhere. And I want to say thank you to all of you all, but I love you all dearly, each and every one of you all. And it's okay for us to disagree. But at the end of the day, it's about those children. Thank you. Let's get on the same page.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Chauncey King, and I'm part of the group assembled to save Old National, to oversee the day-to-day operation of Old National. And I was going to say something else, but I'm going to take a different route. I've listened to a few of the concerned parents and coaches at Old National, and what I find kind of strange is they're asking for help. Well, I know on this end over here, help has been offered, and it appeared from our end that they didn't want the help. All right, that's first. Okay. Second, we out here basically we're on the same team. All right, we're here to try to save these people, but we had the people come up here earlier, and they received an award for speaking for the voice of the voiceless. Well, I don't speak for the voice of the voiceless. There were a lot of people, a lot of coaches. I started at Old National Park back in 1978. All right, back when it was still down at Joey Scout Field. All right, and we had people who was in this park just as long as I have, and they're no longer there, and they feel like they don't have a voice. Okay, in order to have help, you got to be able to want to receive help. All right, now that's what we're getting from most of the people in the community. It's not about cyber, whatever the lady said. It's not about that. The bottom line is a number. The number is less than 100 kids, 51 based on what we heard. Whether it's 51 or a little bit more than 51, the numbers have decreased at the park. All right, and it's not. It didn't happen overnight. It's something that's been going on gradually. So we feel that we can do a better job, and we just want to make sure that y'all hear us. That's about it. Thank y'all.
Good evening, Council. My name is Raymond Wilson. I'm the HOA president for Jones Crossing. Ms. Potter spoke on our behalf too, and I'm coming to second what she said. We're the closest subdivision to Jones and 92. So I feel like we have a more vested interest than probably anybody. Initially, when I heard the first plan about improving the intersection, I was for a traffic light. Went back and did some research and realized I was reacting and not really knowing what's going on. I know some people call for a traffic light up there, but during non-peak hours, the traffic light would just back up traffic to the entrance of our subdivision, would make it hard for us to get out. We only have 2 entrances to that subdivision. We've had numerous accidents, like she said up there, since 2007. We've been there since the beginning. I wish that we could get something done yesterday, but as soon as possible, we need a roundabout at Jones and 92, and I am District 3, Ms. Willis. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beverly Davis.
Speak, I'm telling you, speak. I got mine cut out. Speak to the microphone.
Okay, my name is Beverly Davis, and I'm here to talk about Old National Park also. I'm gonna talk to you from a mother view, because my grandkids have all been to Old National. That's my son is the commission. I'm Tony's mother, and I'm gonna tell you from the outside looking in, he have been through the ground. To me, he's always worried about something that someone else has said. And that's what it is. To me, it's just the older people, the people that have left Old National is saying rumors. And I know because I have co-workers that stay at Ben Hill, that plays at Ben Hill, that plays over there in Decatur and stuff, and they always telling me something that the coaches have said about Old National. The old coaches. And if they need names, I got them. And that's the problem they're having.
So?
I go, like you said, volunteer. I work 3 days a week. I'm retired. But every Saturday, if my son called me and said, Mom, I need help, I'm up there from the time they open to the time they leave. All of us. We can come, we're a family, or they can call any of us and we're up there and we work. So it's not that we don't, I just don't believe they asked for help and didn't get it. I don't believe that. So all I'm gonna say is please consider they work hard. And for one thing, they're Christians and they have a heart. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Glenda Collins, Fairwood. First of all, I would like to thank the police chief and the police officers for all their hard work that they are exuberating in our community. I would like to also talk about Mr. Taylor in risk management, who gave a presentation on trash pickup for the city to the city council on the last meeting. He made decisions without consulting with the council and the public, and that should have been addressed prior to his presentation. I attended the Fulton County Commissioner's office this week, And there's one thing that really concerns me, because in the meeting, the council voted on a building that needed repair. And in the end process, someone made a statement that that building did not belong to the county. It belonged to the city of South Fulton. So they went in executive session, and I don't know the outcome, but I would like to know if we know where all our buildings are, and if the county does the repairs, how do we respond to that? Does that mean that they keep the building? Does it come back to us? Or how do we handle this situation? Thank you.
Caller, Mr. Charles Mitchell, Ms. Tanya Porter, Mr. Kevin Smith, and the last speaker is Dr. Deborah Easter. Mr. Mitchell.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, city staff, as well as fellow citizens. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I know a lot of work has been put into the transition of public works, and tremendous amount of effort. Also recognizing that the county's thrown a lot of barricades and potholes in our path. But the path we're on, I'm afraid, is disappointing, frankly, that we are taking a path that the transition teams said we would rather not outsource our essential services, recognizing the impact, the financial impact it had on our sister new cities. Recognizing some of the earlier comments, there are several items that we probably still need to pull in under our umbrella just for certifications and in order to be qualified for certain things. Please take a look at those. We need to reevaluate some of those positions. Also, let's talk about Highway 92 in Jones for a moment. A year ago, approximately 9th of November of 2017, a traffic study was done on that intersection. That study appears to be very unbiased. It analyzed multiple configurations of roundabouts and signalized intersections. The conclusion of that study was that a signalized intersection was most appropriate to provide the gap necessary in traffic to allow the side street to enter the mainline traffic. Please review that study and look at it very closely. Again, it doesn't work well in off-peak unless the traffic light is properly timed and is fully automated. The other thing that we need to look at and kind of read a little deeper into the study is it led us to believe or needed a capacity improvement between Jones and the Parkway. We may need to even push DOT to consider going as far back as the Mooney Road. So please take a look at that study. Give me a shout if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Porter. I am a parent to 5 children, a single parent, and a hard worker. And my children play sports at Old National Park. I'm here because I really wanted to find out if there are any grounds for the people who are opposing the board members, if there were any real grounds for them to be removed. I have had a daughter who's now in college, plays sports, and she came through Old National and she excelled academically as well as athletically. And Ms. Mumford was a part of that. She has built a team to where they have built a rapport. Now I can no longer be fearful of my child or my children going to our national park because it's safe. The books are open to where we know where our funds are going. When we pay our money, we know that we're going to get the products that they said they're going to give us. I just really want to say that they have set a standard and we should let them remain, and I ask that you let them remain, and whoever opposes them, just come and help out. We welcome you all. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Kevin Smith, and I'm here to make a special presentation to Pro Temp Mayor Council Member Mark Baker. The Bible says, in Romans, I think it's 13:8, somewhere I confer with a chaplain, but it says to owe no man nothing but to love him. So this trophy is old in terms of when he performed this great task, but we're here to acknowledge him anyway. So I'd like us to put our hands together for Mark Baker, Councilman Mark Baker, the Old National Merchants Association Unity and Community 5K run. He was the first place male 50 and under. Not second place, first place. Okay, he was third place overall in the whole race, but he was first in his age group.
Right.
On three. 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3.
Hate is a disease, Rosie Jackson. I hear you.
Your mic. I have 30 more seconds. I did want to acknowledge Mayor Bill Edwards. He was the General Marshal for the race this year, and we had other councilmen and council people participate. Council member Khalid, as well as Councilwoman Rosie Jackson. So hopefully we can get 100 unanimous next year for all the council people for South Fulton, City of South Fulton to participate. It's a great race, and I believe it's going to be big as the Peachtree City Road Race. All right. Thank you for the time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dr. Deborah Eastern. I'm here for a different matter. I'm here to ask some questions relative to the zoning for bed and breakfast. My husband and I are in the process of planning to launch the City of South Fulton's first bed and breakfast. And in doing so, I've read the ordinances and zoning data, and it appears that we will better fall under the auspices of a country inn, but what this does not address is whether or not, one of the things that we want to do as an addendum to the bed and breakfast is to also have an event hall, something else that the City of South Fulton does not have. So my question, to be answered I'm sure later, is will this event hall require additional licensing and or a different type of zone?
They'll take care of it.
Okay, well that's it. Thank you.
Just so you know, I think she's referring to the ordinance Roman numeral 3.
Exactly.
On page 3 of today's agenda.
Okay, that's up the first reading?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This one is, who's next?
That's the last speaker.
Connie, before we go, let's take 15 minutes. Because we're all sitting here wondering what's going on, you know, at Old National. And my colleague to the right said, you need lines and that, whatever they is. But let me say this to y'all. I'm going to say this to y'all. A.W., he's a big philosopher and knows Socrates and everything. But there's another great philosopher who was known as Michael Jackson. And he proposed this question to everybody. He said, what about the children? See, ladies and gentlemen, it don't matter. I'm not getting in grown folk business. The bottom line is, what about the children? Ms. Mumford, you've done a great job. I've been hearing your name for 3,000 years. You have done a wonderful job. But let me say something to you. If you're working and you ain't got no haters, you ain't doing nothing. I don't care if it costs me 100,000 votes, I'm going to tell you this right here. The devil going to do his job. You just keep doing yours. We go through, every one of us sitting here up here today, we go through the same stuff every day. Well, people don't want to talk a good game, but don't want to get involved with nothing. They want you to save them all the time. I wouldn't care if you had 2 children. We're still going to give you the same right kind of responsibility and same support we give any other park in this city. So you might as well make your way on up here. And so my thing, and I'm gonna let my colleagues say something, we're gonna think on this too long. But we don't like to get caught with our mouth hanging open. Looking at each other going, well, what's this about? And that's what we were doing. What is this about? We wanna, if there's issues that need to be dealt with, we wanna know. Let me tell you something, don't y'all come down here no more and talk about what somebody said. I don't care what they said, you just do your job. I'll come out there and on Saturday myself. She said, yeah, right. I'm bringing Miss Jackson with me. Bring Miss Jackson with me, because yeah, right. But we're not too, I mean, Khalid, you know, we're not too, look up. I know he will. And this man just got a trophy for winning the first place in the row. I know he'll go. But we're committed. My bottom line is, we're committed to you, whether you got 1 child or whether you got 1,000 children. And we want to help you to build your program. That's what we want to do. And all I want to say to you is, I don't like my mouth hanging open. I need to know. You know, I got blindsided today. We all did. I don't think, maybe Khalid knew. Absolutely. Khalid knew. That's Khalid did. Absolutely. All right? So, we don't want Khalid, we don't want to be having our mouth hung out again. So, Ms. Jackson wants to say something on that. She's going to meet me at the park Saturday.
You know, you've already said what I was going to say, because I'm going to bring Tony up. And yes, I will be at the park on Saturday because I'm doing a signage unveiling for Coach Calvin Lamar. And we are doing a resolution for his dedicated so yes, I will be there. But I ain't going to tell you, I ain't going to come out there. I'm going to tell you right now. I ain't coming out there to do that. But I know most of these coaches. So we need to get it together. Right. And Khalid, whatever we need to do to sit down and let's make it work. That's not my district, and that's why I told you all, somebody called me. I don't step in somebody else's territory. I let them handle their business. So that's District 6, but I am willing. Whatever we need to do, let's sit down.
Let me tell you this.
There you go, Tom.
All of us up here, this is the city of South Fulton. Amen. All of us up here, no matter what district we're in, when we have situations like this, we band together and we work it out. But I want to put a disclaimer on something that I said. This weekend is Morehouse College homecoming. I want to put a disclaimer, I won't be here. All right? So we don't need an explanation, we just want you to acknowledge that you're here and what we said.
So since it's my district,
go right
ahead. Do you want to say something first?
I'll just say. And we're going to move on to this.
Yes. So I did know that people were coming tonight. We do have a meeting scheduled for Burdette Gym tomorrow night for anybody who would like to come. And we will be out there Saturday. I'm actually canceling an engagement in Athens to be at the homecoming Saturday and to do this proclamation for Coach Lamar, provided that it passes our council tonight. So I want to thank all of the people who have come out. I know for many of you, this is your first meeting, and I hope that you stay a little while longer. Right after this, we're going to be discussing the sanitation contract. I think that it's important. We just had I'm sorry, not the sanitation contract, the public works contract. So we just had a day of political education. I think if you all stay tonight, you will get another political education as we deal with this contract. The athletic associations, we deal with through contracts, and contracts are very complicated. We cannot just instantly fire someone. We can cancel a contract
but then we can't give the contract to someone else. We would have to open it up to a procurement process. There would be bidding. There would be a whole bunch of questions and conversation from people on council like you will see tonight. So just know that if that were to even happen, what you see tonight for the Public Works contract is the same thing that we would go through for an athletic association contract. We have spent a significant amount of money to hire consultants to do a master plan for the entire city. And we will be examining this issue in depth over the next few months, so I encourage all of you to keep coming to the meetings and you keep hearing these presentations, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Phillips. Very brief.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be very brief. I just want you to know that we are fully engaged with this issue. We understand very clearly what the council's direction is. The city manager has made his expectations for excellence very clear. Athletic associations have been a vital part of what we've done. The master plan process will help us to define what that road looks like as we move forward. We've been in the city less than 6 months of the Parks and Recreation Department. We've got to make some strategic decisions, and the council has provided us the means to put together a master plan with professional assistance that will have all of our stakeholders have a part in the process. Clearly, our mayor and council will lead that, our city manager as well, but it will engage our neighborhoods and our communities also. Together, we're going to build a path forward and make sure that we have a plan that meets the needs of each district and each community as we move forward. In the interim, all I will tell you is there are children at Old National that need help today. So as we plan our future, I invite anyone who has an interest in helping children to simply come to the park. As a parks director, I will ensure that those who can come to the park and contribute have the opportunity and the avenue to do so. I work with Ms. Mumford on a regular basis. I've spoken with some of the other stakeholders who I've had conversations with as well. I want everyone to know that children need help today. There are 51 kids there. That's not the number we'd like to see, but to some degree, that's dependent on how many people are willing to come to the park after they get off work in the evening and spend 4 or 5 hours at the park. And so we need more folks willing to do that. I'm here to make sure we facilitate those efforts. Just know that we're fully engaged and the city manager is directing our efforts. Okay. And by the way, some of what transpired tonight, I understand the genesis was on social media. I don't want to do social media like that, Mr. Mayor. And so that was one element of this as well.
I understand. I want to thank my colleagues for allowing us to do that for a brief minute at this time, Mr. President.
As requested during the adoption of today's agenda, you're moving up for consideration at this time. I'm going to say 2 related public works items on page 3 under action items. Request approval to enter into an agreement by and between the City of South Fulton, Georgia and CH2M Hill Engineers Incorporated, that's doing business as Jacobs Engineering, for public works services.
And so, Mayor and Council, while we have already provided some insights, and I know the Council has some additional questions, I did want to just take the opportunity to highlight 2 activities that I think were very valid questions that were presented during public comment related to the cost comparison and the requirements, which one of them is the MAP certification. And so we have definitely taken those into consideration for our model. Actually, through joint meetings with both Jacobs and the county, we identified that the LAP certification is a requirement. It actually takes about 2 weeks to attain that certification, and so we've identified both staff that exists now, as well as staff that we would eventually transition that will have the certification. Further on that, we have been in communication with GDOT, and through that letter that we talked to you about previously, regarding, not GDOT, I'm sorry, the Department of, good Lord, I'm drawing a blank, Environmental Protection, EPD. Through the letter that we received from EPD, as well as our coordination with GDOT, they have both committed to allow us to, one, develop our own plan, and then secondly, implement whatever requirements are necessary after the transition. I think one of them will be checking back with us in December, and that's when we will follow up on the plan and figure out our timeline. So we are on top of that, and while it wasn't in the presentation, we have coordinated both with our partners at the county as well as the potential vendor.
Okay. Questions?
I've gone through the contract, and there are a number of items that concern me. I know I sent out a lengthy list, but I'm only going to talk about those that really I think are crucial. Number one, there's an automatic renewal for the contract, and it's a 3-year contract. I don't like being tied in with so many unknowns, and I'm going to talk about the unknowns in a minute. There's an early termination penalty during the first year where we'd have to give up 1 month's fee, which would be close to $500,000. We're going in not knowing what's going to happen, so we don't know whether we would have to terminate or not. So that's a big question mark. One of the big question marks for me is the fact that 53 employees are currently budgeted in Public Works. So when I look at what we're being asked to approve in a budget amendment, it significantly reduces the personnel budget down to a point where it appears that only 1 or 2 of the 53 could possibly be left. And the reason why I say that is because the current budget is $3,165,808, which includes a little over $2 million in salaries. We would be reducing it down to $283,285. So my concern is, who does that eliminate, or what positions does that eliminate? How many of them? Is the county going to pick up those folks, or aren't they? And so that's a real concern. The other concern is that it says that the service in this contract is for the current boundaries. And if they change, we would have to change the base compensation rate, which is about $459,000 a month. Okay. We don't know whether those boundaries are going to change or not. We sure hope they do, but we really don't know. Then this one really bothers me because the city manager is the one that processes invoices. And I would think that would be the finance department and not the city manager. All claims would be processed by the city risk management department because the contractor will not have anything to do with complaints, grievances, disputes, claims. All that's on the city. The contractor does furnish labor and equipment, but we really don't know what that is because it's not spelled out. And I don't like contracts that don't spell out things and we don't know exactly what we're getting. There is a, the contractor will probably lease a facility for Public Works. So if they're going to lease a facility, why can't we lease our own facility? And this cost is built into the base compensation rate. And that base compensation rate is subject to change depending upon whether or not there are any emergencies or anything else. There's an audit term, which I think is unacceptable because it says, for a period of 3 years after final performance, the contractor's books can be audited. I think that's too long. They will assist in developing the city's 5-year CIP plan for major projects exceeding $25,000. I want to know why. I want to know about T-SWAT and the LIMIG grant from the state, which funds transportation programs. None of that is spelled out. I want to know why we're paying for them to establish a call center for Public Works optional is transportation planning, which relates to the CIP program, and of course T-Splosh and traffic management. And so the optional services are extra services that have to be paid for, but there's no cost involved in what that could be like. Now there's a formula. The base compensation rate is adjusted annually. So the cost is going to go up somewhere between 2 and 4% annually based on this formula that's in there. And the contractor's going to provide da-da-da-da-da. So I took all of that and I compared it with what you had on the screen, which was if we did it ourselves. And if we did it ourselves, it's in nowhere as much detail as the contract. So it's kind of difficult to make apples and apples, sort of like an apple and an orange. But what I did get out of it is that all we have is numbers and no detail, so we can't really make an adequate comparison. And I already talked about the approved personnel budget of $3 million being cut so low. And I don't know how the equipment and the vehicle, the cost for the equipment and vehicle was determined because there's nothing in there that says so. But more importantly, it still goes back to the employees providing the service, how many are not going to be around, and why, and what's going to happen to them. And then, if we're talking about reducing the approved budget, which is the second piece of this, first is approve the contract. The next part is amend the current budget, because that's what's in front of me after the contract. Immediately after the contract is the budget amendment, requesting that the budget be changed. In other words, from how it is now, with the bottom line maybe a little about maybe $2,000 cheaper, but the bottom line is not the issue. But the issue is personnel costs, operations, and capital. Then the third thing is T-Splosh budget. So the T-Splosh budget right now, well, for 2018, $18 million was budgeted, and the county was charging us a 5% administrative fee, which actually will come out to $920,000. That's a lot of money. But since the county's not going to be around, and we're going to have the T-Splosh money, that's money that we're going to save in T-Splosh to be used for, I guess, T-Splosh for the contractor to do the T-Splosh, whatever. Okay, I'll just give you 2 seconds. So the budget that we have now for T-Splosh is $17,000. I don't know what it includes or excludes. County was charging us a monthly fee for maintenance, for doing public works maintenance, of $567,508, which came to $6 million a year. So all of this is generated from the tax revenue for T-Splosh that is going to be in addition to the $6 million or $10 million, rather, if you will, budget that we would be entering into the contract.
Okay.
So she has 8 questions, which I'm prepared to answer. So I think I captured them all. If I missed them, council member, I think I'm prepared to answer them all. So have Ms. Winfield here and Jacobs as well. So the first one you asked about was the annual renewal. And so there is an annual renewal, and although it's automatic, every year the council can evaluate, and we do expect to evaluate. And if you decide not to move forward on that contract, then you don't have to.
think when I presented a couple of months ago, not a couple of months ago, I'm sorry, a couple of council meetings ago, so maybe about a month and a half, when we looked at this first model, I think at that time, we do look at it as more than a 1-year commitment. I think what I've expressed is we'd estimate that at a minimum it would be 2 years, and I think that's why we asked for the 3-year contract. As you notice, that escalation fee or that exit fee does go down after the first year. We are asking Jacob to take on the brunt of those leases and those upfront costs so that we don't have to. So you would expect that if you counsel on them after a year, then for their investment, there would be a buyout. So that's a reasonable business practice. The second piece, the second question that you asked, yes, so that's the, I'm sorry, tying in that annual renewal is separate. And so you will, although it's automatic, you can give notice and not renew it. The second piece, again, is that the exit amount, I know that it was lower than what they had asked for previously, and we used the justification that I just gave you. The second piece is that you asked about, which is really a personnel versus operating question. You asked why we would do a budget amendment to reduce it. Remember, you cannot move personnel funds to operating funds without a budget amendment. And so yes, we're reducing personnel because we're not paying personnel. It's considered an operating cost because we will be providing that to Jacob. That's why we're asking for the reduction, and you can't do that without a budget amendment, which is why that resolution is attached. The fourth question that you asked was about the boundaries. And so while we currently don't have additional boundaries, we did not include it in the budget because we don't know how, so we have to address that separately. So I think, you know, everyone understands that. And so I think we would have a good problem if we have to adjust our boundaries. The fifth question that you asked was about the audit and leaving their books open for 3 years. I'll tell you, I think that's Jacob's problem. We want them to have their books open, and if we have to audit, we'd like to be able to do so. And I think our books are open for about 3 years after close, so we want them to have that same responsibility. For number 6, you asked about LMIG and T-SPLOS, but I would also include transportation into that piece. So the 5.5% that the T-SPLOS requirements allow you to do project management, currently those funds have been going to Fulton County, although the county, you have to remember that the county has an agreement with everybody, and we just found this out, and I'll be honest, we've been fighting it, and we talked to the Department of Revenue this morning at 8:30, and they told us that Fulton County will still have to be the recipient for T-SPLOS funds because all of the other cities they serve in that capacity, and so that cannot change. But the 5% that is available for T-SPLOS funding, we've currently been paying to Fulton County to manage the process, and so we will receive those funds, which without going too deep into it, we would expect that any cost related to project managing the T-SPLOS activities, the city is in control of that 5.5 million, and so we receive the funding, and then we would negotiate with Jacob separately. The reason you don't see the T-SPLOS and those activities included is because knowing that we have those project management funds, we're trying to be transparent and bring it back to the council so that you approve each one of those activities as they come. And so that's the way the contract is set up. And for number 7, you asked about the call center. In the budget, there's $100,000 for us to maintain a call center. At no point did we ever expect to implement this call center on our own. And so what we did is, instead of us doing it on our own, having to find another vendor, etc., we included it in the Jacobs contract and made them responsible for coordinating the call center, because we would be able to get it for less, basically. For $100,000, we wouldn't be able to do the scripts and coordinate the actual call center and hire the people and operate 24/7. Remember, we had an abbreviated model previously. This will allow us to go to 24/7 and put Jacobs on the hook for implementing. And so I think I answered all 7 of your questions, but I know that there may be more from the council.
Okay, one thing. Hold on. No, we'll come back to you. Let's go to
I have a couple of questions relative to the personnel expenses in the blended contract service delivery model. We're roughly looking at 1.6 million. Does that include City of Southwood hires? If so, how many employees? And have you identified the positions? It looks like at least at the leadership level for Public Works, but can you speak to that? And secondly, I would like to see somewhere in this contracting vehicle the right-of-way maintenance schedule, like when they'll be covering which areas at what time. I know you talked about a reduced time, you know, every 4 weeks, but how does that cover the city? I know we kind of had that with the county previously. And then last but not least, I know as we deal with this transition, a list of traffic calming assessment requests. I know that there are a number of them were pending with the county. And so how do we make sure that information comes over so that that's not lost and that there's in the same pecking order, if you will?
Okay, so 3 main questions for you. The first one on right-of-way maintenance. So the contractual obligation, it is spelled out in there, but remember, we would also be issuing the specific task order. So after we do the contract, we implement the task orders, and then they report out on it in the same manner of Fulton County. But I am certain that we can probably just work with Jacobs and get you a summary in advance. So we can get that in advance of them actually doing the work. But I just want to make sure we remember you've got the master contract and then you bill out task orders. The second piece of that, excuse me? No, the 1 point, so the personnel piece. So remember, our model is hybrid. You did not get the dream piece does not come over. So Mr. Christopher Walker and the staff for our dream staff is included in that budget figure. So there's more for public works. Remember, we're only getting transportation. So we're showing you the full public works model. But that's a good point to make when you talk about the personnel and what we're doing to onboard staff. So we've got Jacobs that's going to take on some staff. We're also going to transition, and I think it is, I know for a fact that it's 3, but I think we're working it out to bring 4 additional staff directly over through transition. The other thing that we have done though is when you look at those 3 positions that would go under Mr. Walker, because those are just popping in my head under general services, while they're not necessarily transition positions, what we're going to be meeting with Fulton County staff and those about is also those positions and who has those qualifications. Another one, and I'm careful to call people out because these are real people, but you know, they have certain positions, let's say, and I'm just going to name a couple so we don't single anybody out, but let's say administrative, planning, engineer, that are also in there that we may have an opening for. I think y'all are very aware that we asked for some additional planners and things of that nature in the budget. We would also, those are not direct transitions, but also going to be offering opportunities within our HR responsibility for those roles as well. So this is apples to apples, just talking about transportation, because you can transition that person that way. But if we have an opening, let's say for a planner, then we want to make sure that person has an opportunity to get that opening if it's not in the Jacob service model. The third question that you asked, I was trying to write it, I apologize, I think I missed it.
A list of traffic calming assessment.
Yes, and so we just got that today. So there are 2 more that the county is going to do before transition. We are respectfully pushing back on some of those things to make sure to see if we can get some additional ones. But we have the list, we have the status, we have all of that, and it is included in the agreement with Jacobs for us to continue to coordinate those services. So we are well aware through the transition process of each one of those traffic calming requests. I believe that there were 14, and before transition, approximately 7 will be done. Before transition, yes ma'am. I think they only have 2 more remaining, but
to get to the 7.
Yes, I believe. Well, let me punt on that and ask Ms. Winfield, because I don't have that number off the top of my head. I would just say if there's a total of 14, there's a finite number that they gave us today that they will complete before transition. And she can tell us that exact number, because I just don't know it off the top of my head.
So if you could share that with the council so we know.
Yeah, we can just forward you the email.
But I think another area we have not looked at, and hopefully the county will provide, is their maintenance schedule on the stormwater drains and when they completed them last. Because I know I've had issues with that, as well as detention ponds, because I know there were a number of them that
the 35 total that we
if you're in, to make sure that that's addressed in this contract, because.
And it is, and so we've actually given, so yes, we've received that number. I hate saying numbers, but let's say approximately 35 that we inherited. We've documented those. I believe we have gotten the maintenance schedule from the county, and we've also shared that with Jacob. So that is included in the contract and the agreement. But we have not shared with council your recent request, and we'll make sure to do that in the morning about the status of the traffic calming, because they have started implementing that process.
And just one thing about the detention ponds. I know the county has shared that they've done a number of those, and I'm getting complaints from some subdivisions that they weren't done, so I'm not clear.
So I think what we can do, we can definitely follow up on that. We changed our meetings to weekly, but it would be very helpful for us to be able to hold them accountable by telling us specifically which ones are in question. And then we can say, hey, listen, we need follow-up on these specific ones. I know Councilmember Gumbs has done something like that before, and we followed up before, and it may have been you, and we followed up, and maybe we owe you a follow-up on it. But I know that we have checked in with them on that, because I will tell you, I was not aware that we had basically grandfathered in that total of 35. I thought that was a little high. And that's how we learned that process, was through those inquiries. So if there are some specifically that you would like us to check with them on, I think we just met with them on Monday, and so that means we're going to meet with them again next week. If you get it to us before then, I can definitely commit to finding out and getting you a response on that.
Yeah, I'll give you the 2 subdivisions that I heard.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I would say for the public who's watching, if they have those questions and concerns as well, they should send it to us, because we're working on this transition, and it would be helpful, a helpful tool in our coordination.
Okay, Mr. Khalid.
First, I just want to say we nominated on the consent agenda. I mean, we appointed on the consent agenda 2 people for the Public Arts Commission. I've had someone, she's come for the past 2 meetings, and she's left because we haven't taken time to do that. So I just want to make sure in our next meeting, we almost have a quorum now, and they can start meeting. So I just want to make sure that we acknowledge them. I had a couple questions, but I'll just ask them to you offline. I'm just going to go to the bottom line, because this is an action item, and we're going to vote. And I know that some people are thinking about voting no. What happens if we vote no? Are we going to? So you noted tonight that it's not an $800,000 difference between bringing it in-house and not bringing it in-house. It's a $6 million difference. Right, we have less than $1 million in contingency. So are we going to borrow? Are we going to draw down $5 million from the TAN if we bring it in house? I don't know. Maybe we can get Mr. Morrison left. Maybe we get them to do a crowdfunding and raise us $5 million in a couple of days. But I think that very often up here on council and out there in the audience, we focus a lot on what we don't want, but we don't really think through what we do want. And so my question is, if we vote no tonight on this, what happens next? What happens to the workers who've already received like risk notices? What happens?
So first, excellent and thoughtful questions. I think the first thing is that, listen, I manage the city. I don't run the city. The council runs the city, and we operate the will of the council. And so this is the staff recommendation. And so this is just our recommendation and what we believe is best for the city. We do have some time limitations. So if this is not what council wants, perfectly fine, and we've got to figure it out. We would just need clear direction on specifically what council wants, and we will have everybody there as long as it takes to come up with a solution to get it done. But what I would foresee is that this way, I'm confident. So I went in front of those folks at Fulton County and I said, look, I don't know what the county is doing for you, but these are the resources the city is bringing to the table, and I'm confident all of you guys are going to have a soft landing place. Those resources of people who would not be hired would probably still be in place, but I don't believe we would be able to hire all of the different staff persons because of the equipment issues and the facility issues. While I probably shouldn't say this publicly, I'm not excited about the public works facility they're working in. I bet you some money they're not either. And I believe that there are some issues with maintaining it that we could not afford right now. And so what would happen is we would bring as many people over as we can. We would probably overpay for a subpar facility, and then we would have to rush to either lease, or we would ask the county to, what I would do is ask Dick Anderson to compel his board of commissioners to give us that $2 million worth of equipment that I don't believe is worth that much for less, because we believe it's in their usable, is beyond its usable life, and that if they're going to transition it to us in good faith, to greatly reduce the price, and we would be at their mercy to be able to do so. And we would just move forward in that fashion. That is what I would know to do, is to do the same transition that you've done before. We take people on at the rates that they are already coming on over. We figure out what to do about equipment and things of that nature. And I believe that the service may suffer a little bit. But I would also say we would just find a way to do it. And we would make it as close to world class as we can. And I think we would get it done. I don't know anything else but to get it done. So if you want to do something different, we would get it done.
So let me just ask a more specific question of our city attorney and our CFO. If we vote no tonight, legally, what would happen next? And if we vote no tonight, or bought it in-house, financially, what would we have to do to afford to bring it in-house?
So legally, you're not on, like, there's no statute or law that says if you don't transition public works by this date, then you're going to lose X, Y, Z. However, your IGA with Fulton County says that they're going to resume the service until November 30th, or up to that date. You have the option to select the termination date. So if you don't have an alternative option, if you don't resume those services, what's going to happen is, whatever the termination date is, the city won't have public works. So hopefully that won't be an option.
And then financially, Mr. Malaki, what would we have to do to make up this budget gap?
Before the change, as you are adopting the budget, you adopted the budget with the transition of the public works to come in. And now we are moving from the transitioning into the contracting. So that means we'll be going back to the original budget adoption with some adjustments that could be made.
Will we have to borrow more money, or you're saying we would cut services or cut, well, you saying we would cut other places, or we would borrow money? Like, where are we going to come up with the money?
The main issue will be on the equipment. First, the equipment that they are giving us is all the equipment that they think they can give us, that they can give us, but that's at a fair market value. Is that all the equipment that we need to take everything, or we have to ask only operational equipment that are in good conditions? And then we can contract some from somewhere else where we may need to borrow some money.
Will we contract it? Will we lease it? Will we purchase it?
We'll lease, or we'll see. Leasing, is it better to lease or is it better to buy? And most of the times, it's leasing is cheaper.
Can we do that by November 30th? Can we sign a lease agreement or find equipment? Like, I don't know how long it takes to.
As the manager has said, we will do whatever you can do, whatever you direct us to do.
All right, thank you.
Because we have deadline with Fulton County. I think with some changes of the time, we have to meet that time frame.
So,
So, I guess my first question is, where are you in relation to hiring a public works director? Is that person going to be hired by you, or is that person going to be a contractor of Jacobs?
So that we have a offer out to someone, they have to accept it, and then we were going to bring that back to the council in executive session, but we believe we've selected someone.
And that person will pretty much coordinate, or did you say that right? Okay, so the next thing is, I guess maybe more of, how many positions, I'm hearing that we have, how many, 50 or so? 53 positions that are budgeted currently. If we go under Jacobs, we will only have about 30 or so?
I think it's about 35.
35.
Including hours, if that's right, yeah, about 35.
Including hours. Okay, so the thing that concerns me, I guess, maybe is more about the intellectual capital that we will be losing. And I know that Jacobs has committed to hiring some of those folks, but as far as the leadership, I'm concerned about that gap. So it's pretty much a very, very hard decision. You're saying 4 of those additional staff will be under facilities?
No. I think the question, Councilmember Rowell was looking at the total, and some of those positions would be under general services. Okay. And so when she was looking at the total personnel numbers and costs, she was looking at all of public work. So that's transportation as well as general services. So general services technically already exists. So that's your facilities manager and those positions under him, which we hope to fill some of those with Fulton County employees. That's not technically considered transition employees because Johnny, who does A for transportation, would do something different for the city, and so he would just be a direct hire. Do you follow?
So if we do it that way, then it will be
so
about 39
be
to
more,
40 positions that we will be bringing over versus, so technically it's only 13 positions being eliminated?
Potentially, that's like give or take 1 or 2, yes ma'am.
Jackson?
Okay, Carmen, starting some of my questions, because I'm looking at 7.3. When it says, where reasonable and practical, the contractor will bring over. Have they already began looking at these individuals?
So they actually were a part of our meeting, and I just get the date. It may have been Friday, I don't remember when we met with I sent you guys a note. So during that time, they met with our staff, the transportation staff as well. And in the morning, we have another meeting based on the outcome of this. And so that's when that process will officially start. They can't do a lot until they have an executed contract, but in good faith, they came with us to address the employees when we met last week.
But I guess I'm saying in good faith, because I asked a question some time ago.
Okay.
Before I made a motion last week, and if I had known this, I would not have made that motion.
Last week? What did you ask?
Or last, whatever
okay.
it was. When I asked the question about would Jacobs be bringing over public works. And it was evasive, the answer, but I guess I should have looked at it then to say it's not going to happen. No, I'm just being real.
Yeah, I don't agree that anything was evasive,
okay.
Council
But
member.
anyway,
I don't evade anything.
First I heard 30. So now you're saying 35. Oh, is that what we're saying? 39. 39.
So what we're looking at, Council member, to be, let me make sure I'm not being evasive. I'm going to be extremely clear.
Yeah, talk to me. I need to, you know.
I know, I'm going to be very straight. Yeah. So Jacobs has said, I believe, approximately 30 people, but they're here. We'll let them come up as well. In addition to that, what I'm also saying is that staff is also looking at transitioning additional employees directly, including the ones that you saw in the presentation to highlight what those functions are. I think that answers the other council members' questions about an intellectual property. In addition to that, we have openings. that these folks would also qualify for. And although they are not considered a part of transition, we are making the extra effort to ensure that those folks also have those opportunities, which is why the other council member said, in reality, while we're only talking about transition, there are additional openings that those folks could also qualify for and come on board with. And so that is how you got to that number.
Okay, and let me also ask, we're saying Jacobs, the contract is saying CH2M. Is that something written?
It's CH2M doing business as Jacobs, am I correct?
Wholly owned subsidiary.
Yeah. Let's let Jacob.
Thank you, Mr. Donald. John Mante with Jacobs Engineering, formerly CH2M Hill. So CH2M Hill was founded in 1946.
I'm very familiar with them.
Perfect. And about
that's not my question.
And about a year ago, we were acquired. So we have, Fulton County has 53 employees.
I want to know how many people he's bringing on.
Fulton County has 53 employees, 3 of which are on disability, is my understanding. So there's 50 warm bodies we're talking about. Of the 50, 10 of those are clerical, 40 of them are what I would call professional or field services. In the summary that we provided to the leadership, we anticipate 38 folks being on this project.
How many is that clerical? You said 10 was,
so,
10, is that 10 a part of that 38?
Correct. So we also have an opportunity in our call center to expand further above that 38%. Happy to talk about the call center when you want to. There's a lot of benefits behind that. I just want to give kudos to senior staff. At our meeting last week, it was great to see that the other partners in the area, the City of Atlanta, not-for-profits, came to that same meeting with us to all try to find a way to have a soft landing. So the language is in it. It says we're all committed to working toward a soft language, or to soft landing. We have a number of projects throughout the Atlanta region. We're always recruiting. So we want to go into this with open eyes, see if we can't find those folks. So again, 53 less than 3. You have 50 warm bodies, 10 of which are clerical, leading 40 other. Some of those are office, some of those are field staff. And we have identified 38 people, 2 of which will be in leadership. So there's 36 other positions to be filled.
Okay, Mr. Donald, you're saying, so we're going to hire the director?
Increase.
Excuse me?
Then that number would actually increase, because with Jacobs, if they're taking on 38, what we've told you is we are for sure doing 4 positions as well as opening additional ones, which is why we believe that we would be able to assist the county in ensuring that everyone has a soft landing.
So our 38 include our 2 leadership positions?
Correct.
Yes.
So again, I'm asking, the director will be, you're going to hire the director, or you've already offered that position?
It's contingent.
Okay. Well, I need okay, can I yield to Ms. Gilliard?
Ms. Gilliard is next here.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll need you. Wait a minute, hold on. Let me see if I can answer all my stuff. Okay, that's it.
Okay, on this document that you gave us, which has a comparison
I apologize, I don't see it. If you just tell
the
me.
blended contract service delivery compared with the in-home service delivery or in-house service delivery. The thing I want to know is currently in our budget, our public works budget is $4,455,808 for 2019. The budget that you have on here, the blended contract budget, is $10,886,107 for a difference of $6,430,299. Where's that coming from?
So some of that will be done through the budget amendment because you're putting funding into the contract, but it is your general services and public works transportation budget. It is a blended model. The way I want you to think about it is we're only talking about transportation, but we're calling it public works. And we had a general services cost center in the previous years, meaning we're funding general services through contracts and other means, but those dollar amounts sit there. Our public works department is all of it. So it is the cost for vehicles for general services that are not associated with transportation. It is your facilities manager and that staff and those activities, fleet maintenance. Remember, we moved the positions from fire and police who work on fleet maintenance. Those are also under general services, so that's your blended model.
If it's blended, excuse me for cutting it off, but if it's blended and you're asking us to approve a budget amendment, everything in there should be included. The only thing that we have in this budget amendment is public works. There's nothing in here about general services, so it begs the question of where's the rest of the money?
Because the general service is not being altered.
It's not being altered, but if it's going to be a part of the total package.
I'll defer to my CFO and I will let him explain it to you, because I think that I'm trying to give you the concept, but specifically if you want to see something, trust me, I have no problem showing it to you. I want you to have all of the information that you want, and I get it. And so I believe if there's something specific that you don't have that you need, I am certain these folks working very hard to make sure you have what you need. So if you let us know, I believe our CFO can make sure to get you that information. So Mr. Malazi, let's make sure we hear this and give a response.
What I need is however general services, whatever dollars general services is contributing to this blended package, so that we can clearly see the general service budget that's a part of it and the public works budget that's a part of it. So we can come up with a total.
The adopted budget that you adopted public works, general services is part of that. When you adopted the budget, you are going to transition public works, general services is part of that.
Okay, listen to me very carefully. You have a budget page called Public Works. In that budget page, the total budget is $4,400,000 and whatever, and you have an attached sheet of 53 positions with that. When you go to general services, they have their budget, which is a different, I don't know what the general services total budget is, because I didn't know that we were mixing the two budgets together. But you got a general service budget, and you got a list of employees that go with that general service budget, because that's really how it's supposed to work. The only thing that I want to see is, I know what public works is, because I've got that. Today, or tonight, we're hearing that part of it relates to general services. I want to know exactly what dollars are coming from general services that will be used for public works, so that we can see the total budget. That's all.
You are very correct, Councilwoman Gilead. When you adopted the budget, you adopted the general services that will provide the citywide. Then you have public works that was to be transitioned. Now with the branding, general services has been absorbed by public works.
All of it?
All of it.
I think what he's saying is it was presented separately because you had not taken on public works. Now, through the budget amendment, you will have both as one department. I think that's probably where the lack of clarity is.
Right.
So you have, so what he's saying is it's not changing. It is just that you had, so it's cleaning it up basically. In your budget, because you don't have public works, you have general services, and then transportation comes over, and that's listed as public works. Through the budget amendment, you have one public works department, and so all of the available funding is put there.
What's the total general services?
General service was about another $4 million on general services. Then you have public works, $3 or $4 million on the personnel, 1 point for operations, together about $5 million something.
It's 4.4.
Yeah, 4.4. So the whole of that public works to meet the branding, to meet the contracting, because there wasn't enough money in the public works. We have taken general services to make as public works the whole of this one in the branding.
So you know what?
So if we're putting them together, we're blending them, then we have enough money to do it ourselves, basically. That's my last one.
Finished?
I'm finished.
Okay, we're gonna get Ms. Willis and we're gonna conclude this with Ms. Rowell.
So I want clarification. We have to have this transition completed by November 30th. We're less than almost a month out. Well, let's just say we are in November now. So we got about a little over 30 days to get the state mandated transition completed. And according to what you gave us, in addition to the in-house services delivery, the $11 million, that is not enough budgeted. And in our current budget that we adopted for fiscal 19, we don't have enough budgeted because we have unforeseen financial circumstances. So you're estimating right now that facilities and maintenance will exceed $1 million. And you're saying that you're awaiting the appraisal, which is due on October 24th for 17 acres of land, but you're estimating that cost to be $1 million, so that's 1 plus 2.
More
than 1 million, but on the low side of $1 million. But more than $1 billion, you're comfortable with saying it's over $1 million. So that's 1 plus 2, that's 2 million. And then you're saying the traffic sign fabrication and materials are going to be over $750,000. That's $2 million plus $750,000. Then you're saying the facility for traffic signal operations, you don't know how much that's going to cost. Okay. And then equipment for traffic sign fabrication and signal operation, you don't know how much that's going to cost. So,
and just the clarification, that's where the estimated, I think, 750 is, and we don't have a number for the sign fabrication. I think I mixed those two up, but yes, your numbers are.
So
the estimates.
We're looking at closely, roughly about $3 million. The question was asked, if we vote no, what's going to happen? But it seems like to me we're going to have to find $3 million that we don't have. Correct?
Yes, listen, I don't want to use scare tactics and stuff like that. I think what we want to do is be responsible, and what the will of the council is, we are going to influence it. And so I wouldn't want to push people in any direction. I think this is what staff has recommended as what we think is our best alternative. There are also some other costs that, I think the cost related to street maintenance that Fulton County actually spent is beyond what we budgeted. So those type of nuances we are learning and finding out every day. And so I think my biggest concern in the traditional model is, one, I think we're all in agreement, it's plain, the costs are different than they have been in any transition. That is clear. In addition to that, I think if we look historically at every transition, there have been additional costs or nuances that we did not expect. We have identified some of those early, which is what that list you just went over on. But I am certain that there are going to be additional ones. And again, even the traffic calming, until about a week ago, we thought that all of those, when we put those requests in. And so when we did, it is correct that you have to wait until school is in so you have the 4 weeks and all that good stuff. But we thought we'd have those done before transition. We don't. And so things like that, those additional costs, I believe that they are exorbitant. And
so are you comfortable with saying that we are going to have to find approximately $3 million of unbudgeted costs that we have not budgeted for fiscal 19?
I believe at least that.
Okay. Also, T-SPLOS projects. Now, outstanding, we put on hold the roundabout for Jones Road.
Yes.
So what do we have to do with that? Do we have to move forward with approving that or prior to transition?
So with that one, I believe that you've got a couple of options. So one, we could go with, it is approved as a T-SPLOS project, and I believe budgeted it. So we could authorize Fulton County now to move forward in that manner. But I believe their recommendation and the conversation between council is whether a roundabout versus whatever the solution that Fulton County was going to do was most appropriate. I don't think it's a negative for you guys to continue to evaluate that, but T-Splosh is under our control once transition is over. And remember, as a part of T-Splosh, while you cannot create new programs, you can move things up and down based on priority. And so the city may decide to do that. And, you know, if you have a decision on Jones Road, I would say you give us that decision and then we go back to Fulton County and GDOT and make it happen. If you don't, today, with what I know today, I would not say make a decision today if you're not on the same page.
Mr. Mansuela is up there. I have a quick question about that. There is a misconception that there are two studies out there. The most recent study that I received from GDOT was as of March 2018, and that study is calling for a roundabout. Is there any way that GDOT is going to recommend anything else aside of that study that was put forth as of March 2018?
What were we just talking about?
My question was about T-Splosh.
I got the roundabout.
Because it's a part of T-Splosh, which is the public works, and I asked him, will we need to approve that prior to transition? And what he's saying is that if we have a decision, we can make that tonight. If not, then that will be later. So I wanted to clarify.
Sound like a yes or no answer.
It's not on the agenda.
Go ahead. I have to.
Georgia DOT has done everything on the power and the studies, and the recommendation is a roundabout.
Thank you. Mr. Dom, is staff prepared to find $3 million? No, I guess that's a question for you to see if I'm sorry. Can you find us $3 million?
1.5 going to them.
If it's not in the budget, the only way is to borrow the money.
Which we've already borrowed, right? So you would have to borrow 3 more million.
We have to borrow the money. The last money we borrowed was the 12 million last year. The 10 million you approved, we didn't borrow. So if you direct it to say you need extra personnel and there is no funding in the budget, that means we have to borrow.
So the money that we have borrowed covers fiscal 19, correct?
The budget that you adopted for public works, yes, covers up to 2019 fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Rowell.
I just want to point out a couple of things to my colleagues. One, I think we got to find a win-win. We are kind of in a crunch, if you will. One of the things I heard, and I remember reviewing the contract, is that it has option years. We're looking at a situation between the two. We're hiring the majority of employees between the firm and the city, 42 out of the 53. And we also know that we cannot afford this equipment. And so, and we have to pay back at hand by the end of the year. And so, I don't want us to just look at this in relationship to this department, because we got some other things that we have to deal with as a city in the next 3 months that we cannot ignore. And so, I would hope that we would think about being able to move forward with it's option years. We can revisit this if our money is set up at mid-year review. We should begin buying the equipment that we need at mid-year evaluations. And the contract also says we can always hire their employees if for some reason we choose not to continue the relationship.
I would like to just point out 3 things that it seems like are very important to the council that are in the contract that we've negotiated, and Jacobs has been a good partner in that. So one, we've committed offline to do a mid-year evaluation. I think we actually moved it up, and it's after the first quarter, is that we're going to evaluate, performances and then making sure that if there are key areas that we have concerns about, that we discuss that, coordinate and make changes. I think the second piece is with the equipment. The thing that you'll see is while the process for leasing and buying and all of that stuff would be coordinated by Jacobs, they would take on the upfront cost. We would have all rights of refusal for that equipment. And so at the end of the contract, at the end of the lease, or whenever it is, the city has the option to take that material and that equipment, it becomes ours. And so anything that is bought outright is ours. Anything that is leased, we have the option to pick up and purchase. And then thirdly, in relation to personnel, Jacobs has also committed to make sure that all benefits and salaries and all of that stuff is comparable. And so if ensuring that when those folks come to us, they are not taking a dip, et cetera, those things have been put in place and agreed upon in the contract as well. And although this is our next time coming to council about it, we have relayed that to Fulton County employees when we met with them.
And again, like I said, between the two, that doesn't even take into consideration what you shared earlier, that the county has a policy where they will place, they talk about less than 10 employees. So.
And I think they've started that process to their credit. I know that when I was there, what I saw, and this is before they even went to the Board of Commissioners, they had some positions that I believe had posted for one day, and some of the staff were concerned that, what's going on with that, and they expressed that once they had talked to us and we talked about the model and what we're all trying to do to make sure people have a soft land in place, then they took those down to make sure that they coordinated with the staff. So I believe that, so I can't speak for what another municipality is going to do, but what I can say is what we've done. But I did see that it appeared, and they did say that to their employees, so I think they're making a good effort, faith effort as well.
Right, so I guess I don't want to lose sight between the 3 entities. It does not seem like anybody is not going to be placed somewhere. And I understand you can't speak, but that's what they articulated. I understand that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we're going to get Mr. Baker, which time we're going to end it there, and I'll entertain one.
Okay, really, I just want to work on the Cliff Note version of this for everybody that's been listening as long as it's been going on. We have a situation where we, as Councilwoman Wilson stated, we would be $3 million in the red if we decided to go forward with this undertaking. People will ultimately be employed and have what you guys are calling a soft landing. They would be either employed by Jacobs, ourselves, or possibly Fulton County.
Or in addition, so listen, I'm gonna just be frank with you. I don't speak on what other municipalities can do. So what I've done is I've called our partners at Atlanta, I've called our partners at DeKalb, and some other municipalities and nonprofits, as they told you before. And so we have brought those resources to the table. And so, the county decided they didn't want to, then we're bringing people to the table who will hire. But it's tough to say everybody's gonna get a job. If you have robbed somebody in the last 3 weeks and you can't pass a background check, or if you partaking in marijuana. Well, yeah, so I'm saying with those caveats.
I got you.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure we.
With that being said, though, those same people who are qualified will get a job, and those people who are employed will still have their benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So Jacobs has a benefits pack. So. And I don't want to take their thunder, but I mean, they come in and they make your whole family come in and discuss benefits so that they prepare everything for your family. And heck, we don't do that. But I mean, to make sure that they have a benefits package for their employees, yes.
And according to our CFO's budget manager, we are projected to be out of the red, quote unquote, in approximately 2 years.
That's right, 2 years. Yes.
All right, so if that is the case, by going contractual years, if we want to bring everybody back after, everything is over, it's a 2-year period, we have that option to do so.
You hit the nail on the head. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just doing a terrible job at this. So when we explained it previously, what we were saying is that staff does not believe that right now today we can coordinate the transition the same way. But this is our model to be able to deliver that and still bring these employees on, bring the services in-house. I know Jacobs isn't going to want to hear that, and they sitting in the crowd, but it is not our intention to have a 10-year relationship with Jacobs.
Right. And lastly, all of the equipment that we will be getting, that we're not getting at the value that we should, will be possibly given back to us after Jacobs acquires it, and or if there's a lease. We can commandeer that equipment and move forward.
It's an excellent question. Again, John Mante with Jacobs Engineering. We see ourselves as the bridge. Right now, we're trying to get your department set up very quickly, get the systems and processes in place, hire the people, stand up. We have a national call center where we can just work with you all. And we see that at some point in time, the relationship's going to end. While we may hope for 10, we understand the long-term goal of insourcing. We understand that. Understand that traditional government, came out of local government myself. The way the leases are we have a national accounts for heavy equipment, rolling stock, and our agreement with the city is what we buy outright, you own. At the end of our term, whenever that is, when we part ways friends, you have the option to pick up those leases and are expected to pick up those leases. So whether that's $1 to buy them out or $10, whatever it is, it'll vary by type of equipment, dump trucks, etc. It's yours.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I move to approve CH2H Hill Engineers for Public Works Service, AGR 2018-034.
Properly moved to second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to mention one thing that we haven't talked about, and then I want us to move on from this. The ice is coming in January, and what I do know is under the current circumstances, I don't think we're prepared to handle the ice that's coming for us. And I don't want to be caught out there without the proper coverage for the residents. And so I think this is the most feasible solution, and I'm comfortable with the fact that the city manager and staff is recommending that we do this to get the transition going and fulfill the state mandated obligations. And then within 2 years, we start acquiring equipment and we bring our people back home, the ones that's qualified to come back home.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's properly move to second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. That passes. Next, clerk.
Okay, the related item is
They approved the contract, but not the resolution.
There's a subsequent amendment to go with this.
Well, yes, but I have one item. So before we go to the resolution, which you remember you have to do both, there was an item that council wanted us to bring back. And so in the previous, and it's related to public works and sanitation. And so when you look at the insurance, you guys voted to do $2.5 million in insurance, but also allow Mr. Taylor, who is here, to bring back a recommendation. And so while we emailed you the GMA recommendation for $5.5 million, he expressed not only your concerns, but also his insights. And so he has gotten some feedback and some insights from GMA. Can we, well, it is, yeah.
You kind of make it that way.
No, he was supposed to come back today.
That's why I'm clarifying.
Well, so I apologize, but I thought that it was tied into the public works discussion because of the cost. But If it is not, we can bring you back a memo, but I think it is something that is valid that you may want to discuss, but I defer because I'm not as versed in the procedure.
No, he was supposed to come back today. We told him to come back on this meeting.
Mr. Mayor, would it be possible for me to discuss this during my city manager's report?
Yes, it will. I think that'd be the better place for it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We'll defer until the city manager's report. I apologize for that interjection.
All right, so that leaves before you the other related item, and that's Roman numeral 2. And keep in mind that you still do have a public hearing on a use permit for zoning. There is Roman numeral 2. There is in your add-on packet is a resolution to complement a request for approval of the fiscal year 2019 budget amendment to accommodate public works.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve fiscal year 2019 budget amendment to accommodate public works.
Mr. Properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes. Next
5-1, 4-1.
4-1.
Okay, that takes you to your zoning agenda item. That's on page 2. You have one matter as requested by staff. This is a use permit, U18-003, and this is within District 1.
Go ahead, Staff.
All right, great. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Well, I do apologize. As our clerk mentioned, this is a project in District 1. It's a use permit for a multi-level self-storage facility. Back on the 18th of September, the Planning Commission recommended approval with conditions. And then on the 25th, you heard a similar request as they were modifying some conditions placed on the site plan for this use. So again, these are the surrounding zonings, pretty much office, churches, as well as some, I think there's a home there, but we're not sure if it's being used as a home, but it's used as an office. So here's the site plan yet again, same site plan as the same item that you heard last time. And just a little bit more details on the operation of the business. So getting to the conditions. So staff is recommending approval of 3 conditions. There is an existing sidewalk on the site that we are asking for there to be upgrades for that. We are asking for that to be a required condition. Secondly, there is a request to have a condition for a right turn and left turn. There is a number of traffic that will be coming from Cascade as well as from Hamilton. So staff feels that that turning lane will be necessary to allow for us to prepare for the additional traffic that's going to be on Kimberly Road. And then lastly, we're asking for there to be a shared driveway for a minimum of 20 feet to allow for truck radius. Yet again, staff recommends approval as well as the Planning Commission.
Is the applicant?
Yes, sir, he is.
Yes. Hello, Council and Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. My name is Jason Summer. You've seen me up here several times, as well as at some of the planning meetings. First of all, I want to thank you for hearing us, as well as thanking staff, as well as thanking the community for supporting this project. We're asking for a self-storage permit on 3900 Cascade Road. Over the past 6 months of this process, we've done quite a bit of accommodations for the community and things that staff has recommended would make this a great project. And we believe this is going to be an amazing, great, beautiful project in the city of South Fulton. We are asking for one possible modification to condition 2, as staff recommended. This is what we would consider a very low impact use on a very low traffic street. It's on Kimberly Road. So the traffic moving northbound on Kimberly, we expect less than 15 total cars a day to be going into the property. Of those, we expect probably 20% will be coming northbound on Kimberly. Although this Fulton County and staff is recommending a left turn lane into the property, we believe that's unnecessary and creates quite a financial burden to us. So what we would ask is for approval, but with condition 2 modified for a right turn lane. So for people coming off the Cascade to have a right turn lane and easy access. but people coming northbound on Kimberly, where we don't think there's going to be much traffic at all, we would recommend that we do not need to do a left turn lane. Based on that information, we hope that you will approve with this slight modification. And again, if you were not going to approve this modification, we would have asked you to approve as is, but we do believe it's an unnecessary expense. And as you would know, anytime you deal with a budget, an expense on one thing that's unnecessary will have to come out of some of the internal finishings and things that we want to do. So again, we would ask to approve with modification of recommendation number 2. And if you're not willing to do that, then we'll take it as is. But thank you again.
I'll open up the public hearing. Those who far over here, those against, those against.
Good evening, everyone, mayor, council, staff, public. You know, after tonight, I thought we had a job with the storage facility, man, but that was easy. I only have one question. I am just so excited about the project, but I'd like to ask staff or applicant, based upon what I'm hearing tonight. I thought the shared driveway was an out, and it's still there. So I'd like someone, please, to explain to me why item number 3 remains on the staff recommendations. Other than that, I have nothing else to say except I support the project wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else for us?
Myself, Mr. Wilkins. Okay. As I said before, and I'm sure you'll remember some of it, is that we support the project because of all of the, within the facility, the things that we need as small business owners. Additionally, he has been, or the company has been what I call a corporate leader in terms of working with us within our community. And so I'm I'm so tired right now that I think this is a project that we should approve. All right, thank you. Oh, I'm District 1 on Utoy Springs Road. Thank you.
Anybody else for or against? I'll close the public hearing. Staff, did you want to answer?
Yes. So the shared driveway is a condition that was placed on the adjacent property that cannot be closed off. That is a required condition for the other property. Only mayor and council can remove that condition.
You saying that, I was assuming last time that we had taken care of that.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's something that is a required
Take care of
condition.
it tonight.
Okay, well, that's fine, because you can make that amendment for the adjacent property, that's fine.
And am I understand that the reason we don't want to do this, we want to do this because it was a hardship?
From what the applicant is saying, there isn't hardship for it. However, you do know that hardship, as far as financial hardships, is not necessarily a hardship. We do have concerns in regards to the traffic that will be brought upon Campbellton Road and then as well as Cascade, which is why we're asking for those turning lanes. Because this use will add more traffic along that road.
What's wrong?
So clarification, the driveway is a hardship, but we just talking about the turning lane.
The turning lane. Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve application U18003, amending number 3 to reflect, to remove the requirement for the shared driveway.
Second. The property moved second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes, I think, unanimously. Next, well.
Then it takes you to page 3. Your one of 3 ordinances. The first one is for second reading. This is sponsored by Councilmember Rowell under Ordinance 2018-042, an ordinance to adopt regulations for maintenance and use of rights-of-way, for permitting of special events, for permitting of utility encroachment, and for other lawful purposes.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve, this number now. 2018-042 with one change throughout that reflects that the permitting is through the Community Development Department.
Well, I would actually request that we could defer this.
Because it needs to go to the Planning Commission.
No, it does need to go to the Planning Commission, but you
Based
sent
on
an email
the-
yesterday based on your conversations with staff,
Okay.
and you would like to incorporate additional changes.
Okay.
I have revised it, or actually I take that back. A person on my team has revised it.
Based
but I would
on
like
that.
to, based on your conversations.
Okay.
But I would like to look over those revisions. So if we can
Okay, I'm
defer
fine
this
with that.
to give us opportunity to make sure
I'm
that
fine
we
with that.
incorporated everything.
So I rescind the motion, long as y'all incorporate, I just want to make sure the language is consistent throughout. Make a motion to defer to the next meeting.
Correct.
Properly moved and second in discussion. All those in favor? That passes unanimously to be deferred to the next meeting. Next, Mr. Clerk.
For first reading of Roman numeral 2, sponsored by Council Members Willis, Gilliard, and Jackson, Resolution 2000, or this actually should be an ordinance, Ordinance 2018-043. This is an ordinance amending the City of South Fulton Truck Routes Ordinance in Chapter 2 of Title 8 of the City of South Fulton Code of Ordinances.
This is just the first read to bring our truck ordinance in alignment with what the county has approved, the resolution that the county has approved. So we have to go through another read.
Okay. Further comments? All right, thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Also for first reading, sponsored by Councilmember Gumbs, Ordinance 2018-044, an ordinance to amend Title 12 licenses, permits, and business regulations of the City Code of Ordinances to establish regulations for short-term residential rentals and for other lawful purposes.
So this is the first read for the short-term residential rentals, and this is something that has been probably a long time coming. This is an opportunity for us to regulate the Airbnbs and all of those facilities that are like short-term rentals. I think it's Vivo and a couple of other sites. We had a call today with one of the host compliance facilities that actually monitors it. And what we found out is that we have about 487 short-term rentals within the perimeter of the City of South Fulton. So, and 347 are operating directly in the City of South Fulton. So these are businesses that are running like businesses, and we're not getting anything off of it. And we're also not monitoring it correctly. This was brought to me from actually a few residents because of the nuisance with trash, the loud parties, the violent incidents that have been happening. So we will be bringing more information to you, also making them actually go through a process. And I think there was a resident that was out in the audience that asked about the bread and breakfast. I believe there is a different permitting process, and also for the event venue versus the short-term rental. But it's a lot of good information out there, and I think the city would be pleased if we could start monitoring the process.
Mr. Khalid.
Councilman Rowell.
Yeah, I also support this, but I do want to hear from the staff at the second read so we understand the differences between the various types, because I'm not clear. And it may be because we really haven't adopted the other zoning yet. So I'm just not clear where Fulton County stands And I don't know if she can answer it. I know she put
She
the lady
left,
to the side.
but she has, oh, there she is. But she is also looking at, the staff has come together and also provided feedback to help move this process along, but she can speak to that.
So, yes ma'am, in regards to what Councilwoman Johnson is saying, we as staff have began reading it. Our building official, all of the planners were necessarily reading and going to have to get comments back to you before the second reading.
Okay, so you'll take in or whatever she shared when you come back?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, that's Oh, you deferred. You deferred.
So I just want to be clear. Is this ordinance saying that if I want to rent my room out on Airbnb, if I want to rent a room out of my house on Airbnb, I have to get an occupation tax certificate and a business license?
That is exactly what it is saying, that you will have to go through a process because you will be operating a business.
And how much does that cost?
So that cost varies, so it just depends. I don't have that in front of me, but it does vary.
What are the steps?
For getting a license,
Yes.
you literally come in, fill out the application, explain the description, it goes to the zoning department, confirm that the zoning is allowed, and then from there, if it is allowed, you go through the process of receiving the business license with the fees provided.
Does our zoning ordinance contemplate Airbnbs?
Not at this time, Mrs. Judge, which is what this is doing. This is regulated at this point.
So this is amending our zoning ordinance, or will we have to do a second step?
So this is necessarily, just like all of the ordinances that you're bringing in, even if it amends a portion, meaning it adds something to the zoning ordinance or resolution, whichever we're calling it, this is a normal practice for us, meaning this one portion added to or removing, that's normal. It's not changing the full file as we're doing with the new consultant that we brought on.
Okay, yeah. I'm uncomfortable with this ordinance. I'm just gonna say I'm uncomfortable with it. I feel like every problem doesn't require a citywide legislative solution. If communities have HOAs, their HOAs or their covenants, they can do that individually. I'm just not sure that we need to have a citywide solution for Airbnb.
I can't. So let me answer your first question in regards to the business license. What I have researched and what the host compliance company gave us today was that a separate business license is required, and they said that we could possibly do $250 as a minimum, but that can vary. But secondly, as far as there have been plenty of HOA presidents that have come to me and have had this type of stuff happening in their communities, and they cannot do anything. They have used their attorneys that represent the HOAs, and things still happen. We have to find a way to actually monitor these houses to understand when they're putting them on the internet. It is also a security issue when you have people frequently coming through your communities in and out. You also have, again, the violence and the trash issue, so it has to be some way to monitor. And it's not fair to other businesses if you are operating as a business by renting your home out as an Airbnb and not being monitored or not paying or using the license fee for it. So, I mean, I get it, but also at the same time, you know, we have to think about.
I hear that. I've not heard any complaints from. I'm sorry. I have the floor. I have not heard any complaints from my residents, and I am like I know a lot of people in my community that rent things out on Airbnb and that they drive Uber, like they're doing things to make ends meet, and I just want to make sure that we aren't going to make an obstacle to people who, like that, quite frankly, like that's a source of income for people. So I just want to, and then I would love to hear from our police chief when we have the second read. I would love to know about the incidents of crimes. I don't want to make a citywide ordinance based on anecdotal evidence, because I just haven't.
Well, I can give the council a little bit more information on the regulatory end, because it seems like there may be a little bit of confusion of what this would entail. So basically, what he would require is the people who operate, the information that host compliance gave us today is, as Councilwoman Gum said, there's approximately anywhere between 300 to 500 people who are, or residences who were operating Airbnbs in some capacity in the city, and they found out this information by going through the advertisements on Airbnb and other websites and mediums, and they came to this figure. So what they would do is, what they're proposing to do is, they are proposing to have a permitting process where people would get a permit and they would register and they would notify the city that we are operating this residential property in this capacity. They would be required to notify their neighbors that we are operating in this capacity. They would be required to have a hotline, or they would be required to report to the city complaints by people who have complaints with however this is being operated. The host company is proposing to have a hotline where citizens can make complaints. They can say that we're having issues with this rental process, or this vendor is doing X, Y, Z. Not vendor, but this servicer is doing X, Y, Z. The cost would be hotel motel taxation requirements. They would have to do quarterly reporting and pay the 5% currently, as if they were, because they would qualify under the hotel motel statute for that taxation. Then they would also have to pay a $250, and that's if you choose that amount. I say $250 because we asked one of the questions I asked host compliance today was, what is the average that the cities that you represent are charging for their annual regulatory fee? And they said $250. So everyone who was operating in this capacity would be required to pay annually $250. And then they would take a percentage off whatever monies are made through this regulatory process to do whatever they do to regulate.
So I would just ask, I would plead with our staff that before we have this for a second read and we vote on it and we pass it, that we have a one sheet for our residents that explains everything that you just said, all the things they're going to have to apply for, all the taxes and fees that they're going to have to pay, a fee schedule. I want people to understand what passing this will mean. And I think that our residents, those 500 people that are having units, like they deserve to at least have information about what the process is going to be exactly and what it's going to cost them exactly.
They already know.
Ms. Jackson, go ahead.
No, I was.
Ms. Willis, Ms. Jackson.
This is a common practice in most cities, and they have a website that have the rentals, and they are mandated. If they do not follow the mandates, then they're not allowed. When I say they, people who choose to rent their houses out, they're not allowed to be a part of the network. And so it does need to be regulated in the city of South Fulton. People do not need to be allowed to come in our city and run enterprises, and then the city does not benefit off of it. As that is illegal, it needs to be regulated. I support this ordinance. I thank you for bringing this forth, because even though that murder that happened in your district was in District 2, it was contiguous to District 3, and you know I got several calls because people didn't realize it was in District 2 or 3. I recall the mayor going out the house 1 o'clock in the morning because a party was held in one of these homes. And neighbors started calling him 1 o'clock in the morning, wanting to know what was going on. So it is desperately needed to be regulated. I support it. I don't think you're going to have any problems getting this passed. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Jackson.
You have single-family homes, and I think I've had code enforcement in my neighborhood how many times? You have single-family homes renting out rooms. And they go build them a house somewhere else, and they're renting these rooms out single, like 4 families living in a house. Then you got people sitting all outside in the yard. No, I can't do it. And that's what I'm saying. And I know somebody personally that's living down the street from me. No.
Well, this is the first read, so I I hope you all will be able to bring some additional comments before I come.
No, we can vote today.
Hold up. Let me say, when you come back, make sure that you review the ordinance as it pertains to how many people can live, as it pertains to how many people can live in one house. Because that's forced, we need to say that. All right?
That makes sense.
So make sure, as you said, Councilor, just to make sure that the law says 4 people can live in a house.
Different
Families. Yeah. Okay?
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of, go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Okay, that takes you to one additional action item, Roman numeral 3, plus you had 2 items that you removed from today's consent agenda. So continuing on page 3, under action items, letter C, Roman numeral 3, request approval to renovate fire station number 1 at a cost not to exceed $265,000.
Go ahead, Mr. Morrison.
Good evening, Council. I'm here today to present 3 options for fire station number 1. My name is Chris Walker. I'm the facility manager for the city of South Fulton.
Is it off? Let's check it out.
To address the issues at Fire Station 1, we propose the following options. Option number 1, rebuild through conventional construction. Option number 2 is a modular rebuild, and option number 3 is a renovation. Option number 1, to rebuild, the costs associated with preparing the land that is needed for a 12,000 square foot fire station that was suggested by Chief Few. That will sit on approximately 4 acres. The cost of preparing the land will be around $195,000. That includes surveying, clearing and grading the land, and running utilities. The construction cost, depending on the construction materials, could range anywhere from $217 per square foot to $434 per square foot. The cost tends to end up on the higher end due to current increases in material costs and labor. The estimated cost to rebuild Fire Station 1 in the conventional form will be $2.6 million to $5.2 million. The timeline will be between 12 to 18 months. That can fluctuate depending on conditions and specifications. Will also require temporary housing during the reconstruction. The cost for setup will be between $5,000 and $7,000. Winterization, depending on will probably be on the low end of around $1,495. The cost per month for the mobile housing units will be $2,350. Option number 2 is the modular rebuild. The turnkey cost to rebuild Fire Station 1 using modular construction is around $350 per square foot. The cost associated with repairing the land will be around the same. The estimated cost for modular rebuild will be between $4.2 and $5.1 million, depending on design and finishes. Timeline will be around 6 to 9 months. The temporary housing costs will be the same as they are in Fire State for the first option. The renovation for Fire Station 1, the estimate from Parker Young Construction to do the exterior renovation and the specified remediation of the asbestos and mold is approximately $115,000. I'd recommend that we allocate an additional $150,000 to the renovation cost to cover roof replacement, interior renovations, and finishes, bringing the total cost to approximately $265,000. This can be done between 6 to 8 weeks, and if we keep Fire Station 1 housed in the current location that they are, we could avoid the temporary housing costs as well. The approach that I'll take, the approach that will accomplish the goals of creating a healthy environment for fire personnel and being fiscally responsible appears to be the renovation of Fire Station 1. Quality renovation of the fire station life expectancy could go another 10 to 15 years. As the city revenue grows and the funds are appropriated, the construction of a new fire station, a new firehouse, would be advised upon the completion of the newly constructed fire station. The building that currently serves as Fire Station 1 can be converted into a main police precinct, city annex building, or a community building. Thank you. I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Let me ask your last slide kind of got me where I wanted to go.
Okay.
If we were to do this, now you know I don't like this conversation. We go back to the last slide. But I do understand. If we were to do this $250,000, is that correct? Renovation?
$265,000.
$265,000. Then your goal is that if and when we move the station, that station will be reprogrammed for some other use.
Yes, sir.
Now, will $250,000 in that station hold up over a period of time that when it's repurposed, it will be in good shape?
Yes, sir, I think it will. I mean, the current condition of the fire station is due to a lot of deferred maintenance by the county. Nothing's been done there over an extended period of time.
And Mr. Walker, the reason I'm asking that because I don't want to take $265,000 and do cosmetic stuff.
I understand.
You know, so I mean, I'm looking at the whole entire building structure, whatever the case may be, if I'm going to put that kind of money in. Because, you know, my philosophy is give me my penny book of matches and my fits in with the cash, see? But anyway, I digress. Anyway, the other thing is, have to do with Chief Butler. Come with it.
I was just
Let's say that, Mr. Manager, we've looked at some of the issues with our fire station. Mr. Lee, I want to bring this out, and that is, if I'm going to spend $265,000, y'all better do some housekeeping. I'm concerned that we don't take care of what we got. I mean, a lot of these things that happen in these fire stations didn't happen overnight. And I need someone in the fire department should be making periodic inspections, because we spent $260,000 and 2 years down the line it's looking like we did when we first left. That's a problem. That says to me that we didn't do, as employees, we didn't take care of what we got. I mean, how does a fire station have a big, what you call it, TV with the back out? You know what I want to say? Some old, big, heavy TV.
They got one that says projection.
Projection? God, please, before projection. Yeah. Fatback, yeah, you know what I'm saying. I mean, in these places, this is where these people live.
We're not gonna do it. That was like the county.
Okay, but we got the same folk in them. All right. So I just want to say, Chief, as we do this, and I'm trying to say that we do this stuff, we want to make sure that we keep up, and there's got to be a plan in place, Chief, that will allow us to make inspections on our property to make sure people are taken care of. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yes, sir. There, in working with the facilities manager, we do have plans in place to assure that the inspection of the stations are taking place. As far as the preventive maintenance, the reporting of it, as far as work orders, all those things are being worked on with the facility manager to make sure that they are working according to what you're saying.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes. This fire station is in District 3, and it's notable that the residents are very concerned about this fire station being closed. What I don't want to happen is that we put over $200,000 of investment in this fire station, and then we put off rebuilding the fire station because it was known that this was the oldest fire station in inventory. This fire station should have been built over a decade ago. So much so, there are plans for this fire station. There is land for the new fire station. So my question is, if we put over $200,000 to renovate this fire station, will that prohibit the plans to move forward with rebuilding the fire station? Is this fire station going to be priority to be rebuilt?
So I think the council would determine that. That wouldn't be a staff question. I think what we would say is that this would make the facility up to par, and you'd be able to deliver fire services, and it would be able to be a usable building moving forward. But the council, we will make recommendations when it comes to where we put our capital resources in building new facilities. I think you as a group will determine that when our financial position changes, and we'll be ready to move forward in the appropriate manner.
Right. Okay, are you finished, Ms. Willis?
But the resolution that we approved on the consent agenda for the public safety feasibility study, isn't fire included in that?
I'm pretty sure, yes. I think what she was asking is, would it prohibit? And I'm saying no. The council will ultimately you may say, it may be 2 years from now, you may say, man, we're really close on parks, or maybe the priority is to not build. We're getting great service out of here. Maybe we do something there. I mean, you guys, we don't want to speak to a decision that you might make in 2 years or a year and a half that might be very different than it is now.
The feasibility study, from my understanding, is to determine what other fire stations where other fire stations should go based on several factors. What I am saying is this fire station 1, is the oldest fire station in inventory, and it has been neglected for years. The county put off rebuilding the fire station, and other fire stations were rebuilt in lieu of this fire station. What I'm saying is I don't want to put over $200,000 of investment in this fire station, and then when it's time to rebuild fire stations, this fire station is overlooked again. That's what I'm saying.
And I think as a council member and amongst your colleagues, you would have a great argument, and you'll also have a feasibility study and other tools that will make the decision on where you guys invest very clear and simple.
Okay. Any further comments? Is this action item? Yes, sir. All right, I will entertain a motion. I will entertain a motion.
I'm going to ask that we hold off until the next council meeting. I want to take this to the community. I want to take these options to the community. I want the community to give me feedback on this.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Properly moved to second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Wait, the motion is to hold it?
Hold it.
I'm holding it until the next
That
council.
passes, Mr. Baker, that passes unanimous. Okay, that passes. Okay, unanimous. I didn't see you. Pass unanimously. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, you have 2 items on the consent agenda that were removed. The first item was removed as requested by the CFO. That's on page 1 of today's regular meeting agenda under number 4, letter B, request approval to enter into a lease purchase agreement with community leasing partners.
Okay, Mr. Malazzi, go ahead.
Chief Patrice Cumming, the fire department is requesting to the council to approve the purchase of 1 Spartan truck and 2 Spartan engines up to $2.3 million. It takes about 1 year to build. It's not that you go to the shop, you purchase fire engines, you have to build. So the payment will not be effective until 2020. So this is just to allow to start building this requested equipment. Chief Cartwright, you have something to speak? So once you approve this one, it will get into the next year's capital budget. It will be budgeted into the next year, but this is to buy time. So once you have approved it, then you actually be allowing the CFO to go and find the means of funding, and it will be reported to you how we have funded. We moved it from consent agenda because it started with the funding side of it, which was the bank. So what you will do now is just to approve the spending of $2.6 million so that they can start building the equipment, but it will be added in next year's capital budget.
Mr. Malone, am I correct? We already have it in the capital budget for 2020, right? For the first portions of the payment, is it not already in the approved budget? Yeah, so remember you did the 5-year capital budget, and I thought that we allocated these funds in 2020 for them to start paying for.
That's correct. That's why we are trying to build it, to approve it now so that they can start building. But the payment will not be until the 2020. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rowell.
I'm confused about the price because I see two different figures and I see community leasing partner being.
Okay, let her talk. Go ahead.
So, which one? It's two different things in here, and I just don't understand the difference between the two.
So I think what it is that there is a quote in there, and I think it's based on 2019 or 2020. Our agreement is for 2020 is what we want to do, but I believe that Mr. Malazzi had some concerns about the interest rate and some other items, and so instead of you approving the agreement with that group with improving the bank, you approve the up to funding so that he can identify a lower interest rate or be able to identify another lender. So the max cost is going to cost about $2.3 million, but I believe he thinks he can get it cheaper by you just approving the dollar amount, which is the ceiling, and then he'd be able to make the adjustment.
Excuse me, you still have the floor.
So again, clarification. Would you only get these 2 items, or would you get whatever equipment you could up to that amount?
Is it 3 items? 3. I think it's 3 items that.
3 items. One is about 900,000. 2 are 400, about 900 as well. So they are coming up to $1.9 million, but they are added for them to get into being used. They will need additional funding. That's why we are asking for $2.3 million.
And it's a delay, remember it is a delayed funding mechanism, so you would not see any cost in FY19, you would see them in 2020.
And should there be a need of any down payment, we have budgeted in 2019, but we didn't put the price because we didn't know how much it will be. So there is funding in 2019 on the capital project.
Okay, so it would be 3 pieces of equipment that were purchased and up to the 2.2. $2.3 million.
Right.
Also, I would encourage us to look at what the DeKalb County just did. I know they looked at some cheaper vehicles that are fire vehicles that are fully equipped. So as you're price shopping, maybe we could see what they did over there because they updated their whole.
I think we actually do that already, right, Chief? I saw a message. So we got your message and saw that, and actually it sent the same piece. I think we do that with I don't remember the name of the trucks, Chief, but the smaller trucks that go out and have multiple services on them. Yeah. When y'all took me on the tour, you showed them to me. I can't remember the name of them.
Are you speaking of the manned vehicle?
Yes. So and I don't know how many we have, but I think that's what the council member is referring to. So we actually do that. I think part of this, if you guys remember, we had 1 truck that went out of service that we were fully paid for. And so what we did is take those funds in and then we've identified this funding mechanism to delay the cost. So we, what was it, 400 and something odd thousand?
Roughly 500,000.
About 500,000 that we collected, and so we put that back in our coffers. And now what we did is spread the cost of 3 vehicles starting in 2020 across the 5-year plan. So those funds for the beginning of the project, we've already received. So this is, we've done what you're asking, looking at the command vehicles. They don't have them, we do, but we're looking at 3 vehicles, one that we've got to put back in service, and then the other 2 are just needs that the fire department is asking for.
Well, I just, again, love the smart solutions
Yep.
that they're looking at. I know they're like 195,000 per vehicle. You can do a whole lot more in terms, because I know our fleet is really outdated.
Isn't one of your command vehicles in District 1? Where is it housed at?
It's at Station 2, Cascade.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, one thing we could do, separate from this, but checking out that vehicle, because we do already have it in play, and it's active and working now. The conveying vehicle that you're talking about is actually in our system, but I think these...
The one that they've done at the cab, that model?
Yeah, it's in your, they're housing it at Station 2, I believe.
I think we're talking about 2 different things. I mean, the command vehicle, but I think what you're talking about, Council Rowell, is those vehicles that would be what we would call like a quick response type vehicle that has...
will be equipped, but you don't have to use a big truck.
Right, and I think that's it's a different model that we have looked at. We talked about it at inception, but we are at a point right now where when we look at our main fleet, we're having to replace that main fleet first, and as we look strategically, this will be some options that we can look at down the road. But if you would, we're having to shore up the foundation, if you would.
Well, and I want you also, Mr. We modeled this after what Chief Fulton was doing in the Gap County, in terms of, that's how this conversation started.
And I think the point is that what Chief Fulton is doing is building up above what is their foundation. They're bringing these vehicles in that will allow for the larger vehicles not to have such a high response. So, but we're at a point where we're simply having to shore up our foundation. And we've talked about a lot as far as what we're not able to get done with the county and different things. So we're at a point where once we shore up our foundation, when we look strategically down the road, we're going to be able to look at some of those models that will help us.
Well, now I'll tell you though, y'all told me this command vehicle, Chief said we use that in the same manner as the cab, and we pushing it out on the road.
Well, and
y'all make me no storytelling in front of you.
Again, we're simply talking about 2 different types of vehicles, Mr. Manager. You're not telling any story. The Camp County has the same command vehicles as well. But I think it's better explained by, if you look at our foundational vehicles, which are those engines and ladder trucks, we have to have those to show up our ISO rating. Those quick response vehicles are not the type of vehicles that are going to help you in that area. So once we get our foundation shored up, and we can then begin to look at expanding those models, which will help in our growth. And again, I look at everything that we're doing as a strategic approach to get us where we want to be.
Okay, Ms. Gilliam?
I have 2 questions, because I'm still trying to figure out the difference between the 2 documents that I have here. One is from Community Leasing, and it's for a Spartan area trucks and 2 engines. This is the one, I believe, that Mr. Malazzi was talking about, the down payment of $259 and us having a balance of $2 million that will be budgeted next year. So that's one, correct? That's one vehicle and 2 engines.
Right.
Then the other one is the Marion fire apparatus. This one is for the apparatus, and it has a total price of $979,800.
So if you see what is in the community bank and that invoice you are seeing there is the same thing. The community bank is to, the other ones you are seeing the invoice from the producer, from the manufacturer of the trucks and the engine. The other side is the refinancing, the bank. So they started with the refinancing instead of asking for approval for that. So they started with finding the financing, which is the task of the finance. Once you have approved it, we will look into finding the financing, which we believe will find it much cheaper than the 4% interest of 4% they're giving out there.
So the 979 is part of the 2 million.
So it's 9, that's 1. Then you have 495, 495, which is another 9 or 1. So together it comes up to 1.9 million, 1.9. Then there will be accessories that will be needed to make these trucks movable, workable. That's why we are asking about $2.3 million. Out of that, we already have in the budget about $400,000 for the truck that was damaged, that had an accident. So the money is there. That money we want to use it for down payment so that our payment, yearly payment can be reduced.
She got it.
I got it. Okay. And we are renting now, we are paying every month $4,000 for the truck that we are using. So if you approve this one, will make us know that at least we have something coming up.
All right. This next item, I'll entertain a motion.
I move.
A second.
You want to specifically say, I think we're asking for up to $2.3 million, is that correct?
$2.3 million. Out of that, we have 400 that we use
I
for
move
down
that we
payment.
approve up to $2.3 million.
Second.
Properly moved second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes unanimously.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and members of council, that takes you to letter F on page 2. This is resolution 2018-066, resolution celebrating the life and legacy of Calvin Lamar Sr., renaming the Old National Park, football field, and for other lawful purposes. Requested by Councilmember Willis.
Well, I requested that we pull it off of the consent agenda because I want to clear up any rumors. I think that I am in support of the field being named commemorating the memory of Mr. Lamar. He is loved by the community, and he meets the criteria. However, we adopted Fulton County policies and procedures, ordinances, and resolutions. And I have sent over language, and I have sent over examples of current ordinances by City of Savannah, Albany, City of Atlanta, and our current policy, which was adopted by the county December 17, 1997. Now, this is not a uncommon practice. In Welcome All, we have a gym that is named, the floor is named in memory of Aaron Blunt. But that did go through the process. In Burnett Park, we have the basketball court named in memory of, what's his name? It's the Coach Albert Outlaw. Albert Outlaw. But it did go through the process. So is this going through the same process according to this policy, which states that the recommendation should come from the county manager, which we are now a city, so that will be the city manager. It also, before the recommendation is given to the council, it should have a committee, and the committee should be comprised of the director of the department, which will be you in this instance. It it also should have the Public Works Department, which we don't have one at this time. It also should have a director of a building, public buildings, which we have a facilities director. So, and then it also should have 2 members of the public on a rotating basis who reside in the community, and 2 open member slots. So did this go through the process?
The current resolution as before you did not go through the process you just enumerated.
So I'm yielding to the mayor.
Tony, you've been around a long time. Miss Council, we adopted the policies of Fulton County. Am I correct?
So the code of Fulton County is available to you. So you basically said that Fulton County's policies there, and I don't know if you used the word policies, but I know that you said that the code and their ordinances are applicable, which means that they're available. But you are not required to adhere yourself or to be bound by every single policy that Fulton County has in place. Like, for example, if Fulton County says that you need to sit this way in council chambers, you're not required to sit that way. So are you required to do every single thing?
I'm seeing that, I hear what you're saying, city attorney. My issue is, if that is true, in the absence, who do you go by? You just can't willy-nilly jump up and say, I'm going to do this thing. We can't willy-nilly decide that, you know, if Ms. Gilliard wants to do one thing, we can use the code against her, and then do something else. And somebody think, well, we ain't going to look at the code because this is what it says. So I'm saying, in the absence of a policy, we got to adhere to something.
Well, my recommendation is that this is a purely discretional decision of the council, and that you move as the council collectively desires to move.
I'm going to say one thing, I'll get back to you. I don't know no place in America that doesn't have a naming policy. If that's the case, I can pop a name up Ms. Gilliard in the morning. Right? But there's got to be some kind of framework to whatever we do, and if we don't do it, then what's going to happen is everybody going to do the same thing somebody else did. And then for you know, we had.
I just gave you a copy of the policy.
We haven't named anything. But I'll give you.
In the past, we have the policy. There's a renaming policy on the books, and let me please understand. I feel that Mr. Lamar's name will go on this field. He has made substantial contributions to this community. His name will go on this field, but there is a process, and the process calls for number one, that a committee put together. There's public input.
But we can change this.
Yes, you can.
Yes, and I have given her the language that should be changed for the city. I have also given her examples of 4 other cities. I did the research, and I have Savannah, and I've given you all a copy of it.
Let me just say one thing.
Hold one second, I still have the floor. So I have, and I'll yield to you. I have Savannah, I have Albany, I have all of their policies. What's consistent in all of these cities is that they get community input. And they have a committee, they have a naming committee. Because when you start naming stuff, public facilities, after people, you know, sometimes it's historical and sometimes it sparks controversy. I'm not saying this will, because he has made substantial contributions. But what I am saying is that there is a process that we should have in place, and we can't just make resolutions and slap people's names on our public facilities.
Okay, are you yielding?
Yes, I'm yielding to Ms. I'm yielding to Ms. Gilliard.
Okay, I think though, since it was something that you knew that was going to come up, probably the best thing to have done is to have a conversation with Councilwoman Willis about it. I mean, Councilwoman Jackson about it.
She called me and told me what she was going to do, but I'm going to make a motion.
I next, man?
Yes, you're next.
Well, speaking of policies and procedures, Robert's Rules of Order doesn't allow yielding. I went to the parliamentary class, you said that, you sent me to that class. It doesn't allow yielding, so I just think we just need to get rid of that. I mean, if we're gonna follow policies and procedures, let's start with Robert's Rules of Order. It's like 600 years old, right? So that's A. B is, I also think we major in minors. It's like 10:30 at night, and we arguing about a field that we know that everyone just applauded when we said his name. So I'm going to move that we approve this resolution for renaming the field, Resolution 2018-066. But then I also want to say that we started off this meeting talking about a legislative process. And somehow something has ended up on the agenda. Now, I mean, all due respect, Mayor, you are the final arbiter of what goes on the agenda. So if this did not go through a process, it shouldn't have been on the agenda. I assume that because it's on the agenda, somebody said that this was okay. But that being said, it's 10:30. I move that we approve Resolution 2016-066.
And I second. Final voice in what goes on.
I second.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just want to be clear. You're saying that the attorney has the final say of what goes on the agenda?
The attorney opined the way she did.
No, but I'm saying you're saying she
I
has.
had it on the consent agenda.
Yeah, on the consent agenda.
So it wouldn't have been no problem.
Right.
So,
okay.
It would have been gone.
Cool.
All right.
That's my motion.
It ain't no problem.
Is that? I mean, I'm waiting for a second.
She seconded.
I second it.
She's got.
I'm going to have a mess.
It's been second, right?
Yes.
Okay, y'all want to vote?
Yes.
This is supposed to go to discussion. There's no second, so it goes to
We
discussion.
just discussed, you had a long discussion.
And I'm gonna have another one.
All right, let's hold it. It's been properly moved and second. Have we had discussion, Mr. Clerk?
Well, you did initiate a discussion before the motions, but
I'm calling for the vote.
Thank you.
Let's vote.
So you going to
We had discussion. That goes, that's unanimous.
okay, that takes you to the city manager's report.
So in lieu of the city manager's report, Mr. Taylor is going to report out on council's request regarding the insurance items for sanitation. I think that there was a lot of conversation. I think initially GMA made a recommendation of about $5 million in insurance, which Mr. Taylor brought back to the council. The council asked some questions because they thought that the policy could be lower. I think we sent you guys some information that included GMA's initial recommendation, but after talking with Mr. Taylor and confirming the council's request, I think they gave some additional insights, and so he will relay those back to you.
Good evening, council. Last meeting.
Excuse me, both of y'all are getting out of order. Both of y'all are getting out of order. Go ahead.
Good evening, council. The last meeting staff recommendation was,
excuse me a minute. Wait, all right. I'm sorry.
No.
Go right here.
Once again, good evening, council, Mr. Mayor. So the last meeting, the staff recommendation was $5 million for the insurance requirements for sanitation. Then council brought it down to $2.5 million. And after talking with GERMA and GMA, they said the lowest we can possibly go would be $1 million. So we can't go below $1 million. So we do have that option to take it to $1 million from the $2.5 million. And it will be up to council to make that determination if that's what you would like to do.
Yes, Mr. Rowell.
Make a motion to move forward with adjusting the limit to $1 million.
Second.
Probably moved and second in discussion. All those in favor? That passes unanimously.
Wait, I have a question for the city manager.
No, actually. So can you phrase the motion to where you are moving to reconsider the approval of the sanitation ordinance adopted at the last meeting. And then after you approve that motion to reconsider, then you would move to amend accordingly.
So do I need to rescind what I just did, or?
Correct.
I don't think that motion hurts anything, does it? The motion that just passed adjusts the insurance limits from 2.5 million to 1 million.
So you can leave that as is and just go, and then, so now just do a motion to reconsider.
And I'll make a motion to reconsider the sanitation ordinance to
adopted last meeting to include a reduction in insurance rates to 1 million.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously.
And then now you move to amend the ordinance as accordingly.
I make a motion to amend the ordinance according to the motions that have just been passed.
Second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? That passes unanimously.
Okay, that takes you to the city attorney's report, if you have one. I'm sorry, I still had a question for the city. We went through that. On the website, it says that, it reads that we will announce the sanitation provider on November 1st. That's the email I got at 4:30, that we're gonna announce that by November 1st in 7 days. That's the email that we got. So I just wanted to know who makes that announcement, who are those providers, because we aren't going to be together before November 1st. It came from the communications department. There's a sanitation fax link on our city's website. One of the questions says, when will sanitation services start? Sanitation services are scheduled to begin on Thursday, November 1st, 2018. Who are the sanitation vendors? The sanitation vendors will be selected based on the qualifying criteria. Once selected, qualified vendors and their contact information will be listed on this page.
Melanie Winfield, Assistant City Manager. That information is based upon our purchasing manager is working with vendors and sending out the information for them to go through their qualification process. That information is out on the streets now, and we anticipate that being completed by November 1st.
So just so to be clear, by November 1st, a list of approved sanitation providers will be on the website?
Correct.
And then are all citizens required to pick from one of those people, and how long do they have to drop their current services?
So according to legal, the ordinance is written.
Because I think the legal our attorney has some insights on that. So before we speak for her, let her chime in.
So the sanitation ordinance, the November 1st deadline is the deadline for operators to submit their signed contracts and materials that accompany the contracts to the city. And then after that submission, city staff will go through that. They'll have a checklist to make sure they meet all requirements, and as soon as the service providers are vetted, then the city will publish that list on the website.
Right, so she's saying that happens on the 1st, but my question is...
No, that's not going to happen on the 1st. The providers have until the 1st to submit their information. It's probably going to take about 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks to vet that information and to actually approve the providers.
So at some point in November, a list of approved providers will appear on the city's website?
Correct.
And then if my current provider is not on that list, how long do I have to drop them and get one of the providers that is on that list?
Well, there's not a deadline, it's just that you'll be non-compliant. It's like if my grass grows a certain level, how long do I have? You know, if your grass gets a certain level, it's a nuisance, you're non-compliant. It's kind of the same concept. If you are using a provider who is not on the provider list, or if you were providing services and you're not approved, then you're technically violating the city code.
And is the only notice that we are giving to citizens this website, or are we going to send something out in the mail that says these are the 5 approved sanitation providers? Because my fear is that I know that in legal terms, ignorance is no defense. So how are we notifying people that we are later going to hold accountable if they say, I didn't know this was on the website?
Well, I know administratively, so we've had a discussion. One, we do plan to, one, notice has been given out just through the council meetings occurring, but two, we plan to publish on the city website. We plan to also give a template letter to the vendors to put on their website and to also circulate when they give their invoices.
Okay, the last thing, might I suggest that we mail out a card? I don't know if we have money for that, but we mail out a card, because I know a lot of my residents are often saying, I need something in the mail.
Yeah, I believe there's a, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Freeman, can you come up? Ms. Freeman, I believe we had talked about including it in a bill or something of that nature, right? Can you give us some insight on that?
We talked about reaching out to the power companies that provide services to South Fulton residents, having an insert placed in the bills. We've done that before in previous places that I've worked. It's been pretty effective, like Atlanta Fire, for instance. And one of the other things that we want to do is make sure that we put together a notifier via our constant contact press that we send out to all the residents, a specific one to sanitation and all the services that we provide and all the vendors that they can choose from. So those are two additional things that we talked about doing in addition to what the city attorney has mentioned.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gomes.
And I just want to make sure, didn't I see an FAQ that came out today regarding?
I think that's what I was referring.
Okay, so that is what's going to be mailed, or you're going to create something else?
No, it's going to be something created specifically that tells you what the services are, what the model is we're using, and the vendors that you can choose from, you know, a few other questions that, you know, residents might have relative to the services.
Okay, all right, there.
Mr. Cooper. Then it takes you to the city attorney's report.
I do have a litigation item I'd like to discuss in executive session if the council desires. It pertains to an email that went out in the communications that I'd like to make in the near future that I would like to get council approval on.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session. For litigation.
Litigation, there was actually a...
Wasn't it personnel? It was a personnel item.
Isn't it? Litigation.
Yeah, it was litigation as well as real estate.
Litigation and real estate.
And
personnel.
And personnel.
Y'all said y'all didn't want to.
So
yeah, the personnel, if you want to hear it in executive session, then I'll proceed, but it's not as high priority, at least as far as me, as far as...
Councilwoman Gomes, you have a motion to go into...
Motion to go into executive session for personnel, real estate, and litigation.
Second.
Can we vote?
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, I heard that.
Motion to adjourn executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Go.
So that was Gil, your
So there
favor.
was no action
Rowell.
taken from executive
No
session.
action taken.
So we closed the executive session and the meeting is...
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
At 11:03.
Second.
She said second.
Hey, that was really great what you just did.
All in favor?
Y'all,
And having lost the quorum.
Yeah, we lost the quorum. We need one more person.
No, she said
She needs to come in
You gotta
here.
come back. You gotta come back and hear a second. Y'all gonna make it what it is?
I think you're Ms. Gilliard, but you can order the meeting closed.
Here she is right here. You see it?
Okay.
meeting closed. Meeting closed.
She's here right here.